On tonight's episode of Sanity Lounge, we got a legend in the studio, Scott Reardon from Baltimore's legendary 98 Rock. Scott took a generous chunk of his busy schedule to sit down with us and deep dive into the history that led him from an upstate New York dreamer to downtown Baltimore radio personality. This was a legit pleasure and a great talk, Baltimore, so listen up.
This calendar of mine,
Sanity Lounge podcast today. I'm going there. I have it on my calendar.
Those guys are awesome.
12 noon, I'm going to film a podcast or tape, and I'm very nervous.
You're going to love them. Follow them, sanity.lounge. They're
done
great.
it.
Yeah,
you've done it.
Joe did it. Tommy did it. They wanted you. They really want Speegs. I was like, good luck. But yeah, you're gonna dig it. You're gonna be so jealous of their studio. Yeah, I'm telling you, Bob Rock doesn't have a studio like the Sanity Lounge.
What do you mean?
does.
I work at 98 Rock, though. I'm in
It's a very nice studio. This is a very nice studio.
Okay, so
they're beholden to no corporation.
Mm-hmm.
They can make it just as Willy Wonka chocolate factory as they want. When you see it, you'll get it. Yeah, we have the most top-tier equipment in the world in here.
Mm-hmm.
They do the same, but it kind of looks like you're stepping in.
It also has personality.
It's like a TGI Fridays, but just covered in cool stuff. You know, what's wild is the studio you'll be going to. You looked it up on Google Maps for the Sanity Lounge. It is the most nondescript white rancher home. You drive by being like, there's a nuclear family in there. They're watching Jeopardy. Mom's making pasta tonight. Dad's kicking his feet up. And then you go inside there, and you're like, this is where Linkin Park recorded their last album.
Oh, wow. It's that cool.
Wait till you see. Right when you walk in the front door, it punches you in the face.
Well, I don't want to get punched in the face.
But gently nut tickled.
Okay.
All right. Welcome, Baltimore, to a special episode of Sanity Lounge. We have a regional celebrity, Scott Reardon from 98 Rock. I'm a huge fan of 98 Rock, huge listener, and for a while, since like 08, I've been listening every day.
Well,
so
I think this is your 20th year at the station, right? 2025?
Yeah, June 1st will be 20 years.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
It is crazy.
That's awesome.
It's weird to think about.
Scott's now 3/4 of the JSS crew that we've had in here, so there's only one left, and everybody knows who that
and
one
everybody
is
knows
be.
we're only going to get
we're calling them out right now.
3/4 of JSS, but that's fine.
Yeah, Josh Spiegel. I don't know. I mean, I'll. Justin said great things about this. Joe has been here. Joe has said great things. I'll say great things.
Tommy,
hopefully, it's not over yet.
Right,
we've had Simbazo in. We have Bussy coming in next Saturday on the 1st.
So, I mean, if we all kind of co-sign you guys.
Carry him here, yeah.
It's possible.
And I don't want to triangulate his location, but I don't think he's too far from here.
Right, nice.
So, yeah, he's a tough one.
Right, he's a tough nut to crack.
He needs to have... feel comfortable, and if he's outside of his,
I feel like you would have to chaperone, or one of you guys.
Maybe that might be the way to do it.
Yeah.
Someone might need to come with him.
Yeah. Right. I don't think there's a shot he'd come on his own.
We'll kind of trick him into it.
Yeah,
we'll tell him you guys are doing a live show from Sanity Lounge.
Ooh, yeah. But again, I was trying to trick him with
show
Predator heads, but it won't work. Okay, so Scott, just so you don't know, I don't think, because you haven't listened as long as me, but Scott is originally from New York, and you cut your teeth, or you went to college for radio in New York. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, going all the way back, I went to school in Albany, New York. I'm from Long Island, but I went to University at Albany, and from there, that's kind of where it all started. I was a communications major, but I had no idea like what I wanted to do. I was pretty bad. I wasn't a bad student, but I was just like, I don't know. I went to college because it was what you were supposed to do.
Right. Sure. Were you vibing radio, or were you just going communications because of any?
No, that's the whole thing. So, like, I guess maybe like junior year, I met this guy named Rob who worked, like a friend of a friend who worked at the local radio cluster. Mm-hmm. And from there, he was like, he's like, you're a communications major. I could probably get you an internship. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I didn't even like know that was a thing, really. So I did a senior year, first semester, I did a part-time internship, which basically I was only there 2 days a week. And I started to intern on a morning show. So like I'm a senior in college, and I interned at this morning show called Waking Up with the Wolf, 106 Pix 106.
Nice.
But I was only there Monday and Friday, so I had no idea what was going on.
Right.
The other days of the week, I'm like in college, so they had me manning the phones, and people would be calling up, being like, "Hey, what's going on with that Leonard Skinner concert? Or what's the date of this? Or what's the date of that? When's?" And I was like, I don't know, right. I don't know, man. Like, I was so freaking lost that they kicked me out. Like, they kicked me out. Wow. They were like, "We don't want you in here anymore. Like, you're screwing up the show." And I was like. And I remember like when John de Blasi called me and he told me that, I literally like cried a little bit. I was like, man, I'm sorry. I'll work harder. So
they did not just give you any direction. They were just like, here, have at it.
Just answer the phones, really.
Just answer the phones.
And I was like, and there might have been some paper on the wall that had like the concert dates listed or the phone numbers or this or that. But it was very overwhelming.
Right.
So then like... I still did an internship, but I just basically worked around the office. Like I was in the office and I was filing papers, which was just whatever, clerical work, just dumb shit. Can I curse?
Absolutely. Yes. Be you.
So then I was like, well, I did another internship my senior year. And it was a full-time internship. It was 40 hours a week at the radio station.
Hey, just to be clear for the layman at home, when you intern at a radio station, it's anything from getting coffee to answering the phone.
Nowadays, trust me, it's changed because of the way the new generations are.
Sure.
If you tell someone nowadays to get you coffee, you might have a lawsuit on your hands.
Can you imagine?
Right. Yeah. Back then, I did everything I remember one time they did an event called... Bras Across the Hudson River. It was for breast cancer.
Sure.
So they would string all these bras together enough to go across the Hudson River in downtown Albany. And I had to sit in a room for 6 hours and count how many bras they had, so they could like put it in a press release or something. And that was what I had to do as an intern. Right. It was like it was whatever they told you to do.
Gotcha.
But so full time one was 40 hours a week. I only went to one college class, which was an hour long. But all the other 40 hours, I would have to work at the radio station. And it was a full 15 credit. It was a full semester of credits. So I go to the office and I sit down with my internship director, who I'm still friends with. Her name's Selena. I love her. I go see her every year.
That's fun.
And she's like, I can't have you filing papers for 40 hours a week. Like, do you want to work with the morning show? The country morning show. They just got put together. She's like, you could just go, you figure it out. And I was like, fine, I'll do that. And that was like the beginning. It was, so I interned with them Monday through Friday. I'm a senior in college. All my buddies are going out, getting hammered, having fun. I was up every Monday through Friday, every day at 5:00, going to this radio station to work with Sean and Richie on the country morning show. And from there, that's kind of where it all started. They hired me out of college, and then I worked there for a long time, for 6 years.
And let me ask you something. That's good years spent, because you're probably learning to troubleshoot on the equipment and stuff during that time, or are you still just doing more clerical?
No. That's, I mean, had I gone into that and had to like just work around the office for 40 hours a week, it would have been awful. I mean, I was in the office. So the radio station, that studio was in the office. So I go to the office every day, but I was interning with the morning show. I was like their intern. And I almost immediately became third mic, which was crazy because awesome. Sean and Richie had just gotten put together. Sean came from the night show. Richie had been with the morning show for a long time, and they weren't really getting along. Richie was kind of old school. Sean was kind of new school. So I was kind of in the middle. So I was like a buffer for them, which was nice.
Right.
And I was almost immediately third mic, and I kind of through the internship, and then I got hired, right? So I actually went back to Long Island. I had no idea what I was going to do. I graduated in whatever, when do you graduate? June or something? July?
This is like the late 90s, right?
This is 1999.
1999.
And then I think they called me in September, and they're like, hey, we were able to convince them to hire you on as producer. And I was like, I got nothing else. Let's go. And I packed up and I moved back up to Albany.
Good for you, man.
yeah, 6 years later, I moved to 98 Rock.
So was that country or that show, it wasn't anywhere in the class that 98 you guys are right now as a morning show?
It was pretty big. I mean, up in upstate New York, country music's huge,
Right.
and WGNA was like a big, it was almost like a 98 Rock of that region. It was like a heritage station. It had been on the air for a long time. The problem was, like, Howard Stern was in the market. He was on the other stations in our cluster. And when you have like a country morning show,
That's what I was going to
if
say.
people don't like country music,
They're not going to listen.
they're not coming over just for the morning.
Right.
You would need to be really, really
So the
good.
morning show, it's
We
not
were
really music. You guys were still talking and doing things?
Yeah, I mean,
But
played,
not comedy, really.
No, it was comedy. We
was?
played music. It was comedy. Richie like played pianos. He did parody songs. And as the show grew, we put out like 5 CDs of, remember back in the day when radio shows like KML has Don't Move, I'll Get a Towel. They have all those famous CDs. We did all that. We put out CDs. We did everything.
So it was a big company. Yeah.
They ended up, one of the years I was there, I put together a packet for them. We won a CMA. We won a Country Music Award for Best Morning
Really?
Show. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty, it was a good show. But then, my time came and I got a phone call and I moved here.
So they found you through the radio industry.
Well, I forgot that part. So while I was working up there, I met a guy named Dave Hill. Dave ran 103.5, 103.9 The Edge, which was the rock station of our cluster. And that had Howard Stern on it. It had Jeff Morozic was on there. There was a whole bunch of cool DJs. And it was a really cool station. So Dave was the program director for those stations. He ran those stations. I met Dave there. Dave eventually moved here to run 98 Rock. And then like 2 or 3 years later, I had broken up with my girlfriend. I had nothing going on in Albany. I had been there 6 years. He's like, hey, I got a gig for you. Do you want to come move to Baltimore and work for 98 Rock? And I was like, fuck yes.
You knew the station.
Well, I had been down to visit Dave a bunch. Like, Dave had lived here, I think, 3 years. Dave and I lived together for a while in Albany. Dave and I became really good friends. He moved here. He's like, Mickey and Amelia were in afternoons.
Right.
They were starting to get some traction. He's like, I need a producer for the show. I know a guy in Albany that I need to get the hell out of Albany. And he called me up. I moved down here, and the first gig was afternoons, Mickey and Amelia, producer. That was June 1st, 2005.
Yeah, so I was at Harvey's, and that's when you came on my radar, was right when Mickey and Amelia went from afternoons to mornings.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I was here for about maybe a year and a half after I was here. Kirk and Mark left. They went across the street, and they moved us into mornings. So I'd been here about a year and a half, and then they moved us to mornings. So I've done morning radio since 1999. So what is that, 20?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's all I've ever done.
So-
I did it right out of college. It's all I've ever really done, which is just insane.
We were all of us were Kirk, Mark, and Lopez loyalists back in the day. Remember when I used to work for a landscaping company, Douglas Lawn and Landscape. I'll give that a shout out, the Zeps.
Yep.
And we used to decorate his parents' house with Christmas decorations because they were those people that they would hire.
My
a
mother would
company
be like, let's just put up 6,000.
It was insane. Insane. He had a lot of trees in his yard. But
back-
me and Mike, I can't remember his last name, but he worked for Doug. We made that sign because Kirk, Mark, and Lopez were having that contest.
Oh, was it the decorate your house thing?
The decorate your house, and they were flying over houses to try and find it, and ours sucked. Like it, as good as we were, like that part of it, we just failed.
You're right. You threw it together. Right.
I don't even know. I mean, I don't know if we played. I mean, the property looked great, but our sign didn't work out.
So it was college internship. I mean, I don't know, like, kids nowadays how internships work, but it's you get out of it what you put into it. You know what I mean? Like I made a really good impression. That's what I tell the young kids at the station. I'm like, work hard, say yes to everything, make a good impression, get your foot in the door. And that's half the battle. And then from there, more doors may open. You never know. Like for me, I showed up. Sean instantly took a liking to me. I meshed with those two guys enough so that they hired me on as producer. I was third mic. I was on air with them. We were joking around. So it was 6 years there. Then 2005, I moved here. And then this is just,
yeah, you got to pay your dues. It's like you learn in college the paperwork. We all know the story. You can learn the theory of everything, but until you're out there in the field applying the knowledge that you read about,
well, yeah, I mean,
really
that
don't
was
get
like,
it. And you put in the time at that moment. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I had gotten fired from that first internship off of that radio show, and that was a big radio 2 show. It's called Waking Up with the Wolf on Pix 106. And that was huge. I remember they had their Halloween party, like we do bacon and beers now. They had their annual Halloween party, and it was freaking huge. And it was the first time I've ever really seen anything like that. I had to get there, I think, the night before to where it was at Glenn Sanders' mansion, and it had like a hotel attached to us. I think they gave us rooms. We had to be up at like midnight to start setting up for this broadcast, for Waking Up with the Wolf's Halloween broadcast. Right. And it was in this giant ballroom, and I mean like 1,000 people showed up, and I was like, this is incredible.
Right.
Like there was like $1,000 for the costume contest. So all these costumes were just incredible. But I mean, I had to be there all night, all day, setting up. But you learn, like you said, hands-on. You're learning so much, and you're exposed to all this so quickly. And you're in studios. Back then you're pulling carts, you're pulling CDs, you're signing logs, you're air checking shows, you're editing, and it was like that. That's you can't put a price on that.
Right, you can read about that kind of stuff, but until you're in the shit, if you will, it doesn't really click. And that's why I think you're probably a dynamite producer, because first of all, 98 Rock at the time when you came here has already been established. It was a big, thing.
Yeah.
And so for you to come in, and let me ask you this: so when you moved to the morning show, was Spiegel the news guy?
Yeah.
I remember he was with Mickey and Amelia.
Amelia
now,
and Spiegel.
What was your take on Spiegel when you first met him?
I don't really remember. I don't remember
because you were a bit of a hard ass, like in a respectful term. Like you were kind of.
Yeah, but I was able to
producer.
direct. I was able to with Spiegel, it was like I had to. I was there every day. I had to load all of his audio in. I had to make sure. And I came up with a nice system for that. So him and I never really had any, because he could be a stickler about that, which is good. You want someone to be, very, but if you screw up, you're going to hear it, right? So it's like we came up with a good system. I was really good at, pulling audio, loading audio. It was simple for me. And I always had all that ready for him. As long as you had all of his stuff ready and you dotted the I's and crossed the T's, you were fine with him. But like, in terms of being a hard ass, like I didn't really have to produce him much. I had to, focus on Mickey a lot, obviously.
Right. Well, that's what we were going to get to.
Like he took a lot of my attention. Amelia was great. Obviously, she was awesome. Mm-hmm. But it was more those two. Like Amelia, you had to make sure she liked to have her prep and make sure she knew what was going on. Mickey, you just had to corral. Mm-hmm. And Spiegel did his thing in the corner and did his news. And that's just the way the show worked. I don't really remember much of the early. I do remember when Speegs moved here, because I got here in June, he got here in August of 2005, and we had a big welcoming party for him, and that was, I think, the first time I met him. But then, like you said, we were still in afternoons at that point. It was Kirk, Mark, and Spiegel.
Right.
And then Kirk and Mark left and went to go across the street, so Spiegel was still there, so they moved Mickey, Amelia, and Spiegel. They moved them to the mornings with Spiegel, and I went with them. And, yeah, I mean, Speegs is just, he's kind of self-contained in a way, so which is good. I mean, he writes all of his own stuff. He does it on his own, and he does like to have, sound accompaniments, which that falls on the producer. Make sure you get all the sound. And
correct me if I'm wrong, I do think that there was a year there in the early years where he won like best new radio personality or something. There was the first year he was there, it was rough. Like I didn't think it was rough, but you could tell that people were like, but there was some point where he won an award, not the Murrow stuff, but it was like a local award for like best
maybe
new
City
personality.
Paper, it might have been
something.
City Paper or something like that. But he's been on the cover of everything.
Right.
He's won everything.
Right, he's got multiple Murrows.
And it's all well deserved. Like you said, I mean, he is. I don't want to say an acquired taste, but you got. It takes a minute to get what he's doing, and then once you get it, you're like, all right, this is brilliant.
Right. Part of the fascination is you're like, what the hell is going on with this guy? And so you kind of you lock in, but then you realize like that's it. It's like whatever that is why he's fascinating.
He's not acting.
Correct. He's not acting.
He's not. That's the number one question I get. Is Spiegel really like that?
Right.
The answer, yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I can tell. I mean, I've never even met him, but you can just tell by the way. I mean, when he melts down on air, that shit gets intense. Like as a listener, you're like, this fucker's serious. Like, there's no way that this is.
Trust me. Part of me wishes I had a little like scoop of that where I could just, because he'll let it build, but then he it explodes and he vents it and then he comes back down.
Right.
And it's almost like that's his process. And it's kind of it might seem dysfunctional to some people, but for him it's a nice healthy, that's the way he does it. And it's not a matter of like whether or not it happens. It's like, it's going to happen. You just have to regroup and move on. You know what I mean? Right. It's just the process.
It's actually a perfect way to let the corporate overlords know what the problems are without it being too combative, because he always will say the things that is probably 100% true, and you can't just say, but he's saying it with shticky vibe. They hear him.
Yeah.
It's on the air, so they're not going to like cancel the show. But, it's actually probably the best way you could go about it.
Is that a fish tattoo?
It is a fish tattoo.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Set the gear shift for the high gear of your soul. I'm a drummer. And
that's
so
Run Like an Antelope.
Yes,
I just saw the circles and I was like, damn, this dude's deep in this. Okay.
We've been in there for a long time.
Yeah. And I'm very.
How many shows have you been to? Let me ask you all the questions.
See, like
70s?
people count.
70s,
I've never
60s.
counted.
I mean,
but
I don't know.
It's in the 80s. I don't
he's
think
been
I'm
to
quite
more,
at
I
100
think.
yet.
Yeah. I
But
got to
might
believe 70s.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe somewhere like
I have
20
a
or
lot
30.
of tickets, but I don't have them all.
I mean, we saw
and
our
it's in
first
the
show
70s.
at US Air Arena in 95.
Right.
Like
right.
April 95.
That's kind of when I start, because I moved. Like I said, I went to college in Albany, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 1995, I get to college.
Oh man,
I didn't really
New
smoke
York,
weed in
95.
high school. I wasn't like a big weed guy in high school. I was more of a drinker. But then in college, I'm like, all right, let me see what weed's all about. Start smoking some weed. You're in the Northeast. We were a stone's throw from Vermont.
Right, they're there.
Right.
That's where they're from. And it was like we got a hold of a cassette of Lawn Boy.
Yeah.
And we started smoking weed, listening to Lawn Boy, and it was just like, all right, we're in.
I mean, my introduction was Junta.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we ate acid and listened to Junta.
The first festival I went to was Clifford Ball up in Plattsburgh.
Okay, I went to Camp Oswego out in Oswego.
Oh yeah, right.
But I mean, Northeast 90s fish. It was like, okay.
It was,
right, you have to.
There was nothing better. I mean, we've seen many of the New Year's shows at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I've been to two New Year's Eve shows.
Yeah, 95. I was at 95, which is arguably one of their best shows.
Oh, that's, I have
ever.
someone
show.
gave me that on vinyl, and it's
wow.
like a big,
Yeah,
it's
awesome.
the big box set.
Yeah.
I haven't even opened it.
Yeah,
I've kept it wrapped.
Wow,
I don't
that's
wanna,
a good vinyl.
I finally got the Clifford Ball vinyl box set.
I bet you
huge.
that's
it's
incredible.
got books. It's funny. It's got like 12 LPs in there or records in there, but it's only because there's like not even.
I bet you like one side of a whole vinyl is like
Tweezer.
Right. Yeah, like
it's
not
30 minutes.
like every set. It's like just there's like 4 songs on each side. But yeah, it was.
Oh,
it's great.
it's literally selections from Clifford Ball.
No. It's the
It's the
entire
whole
show,
okay.
but
Okay.
it's
like the
on
songs,
12 vinyls.
It needs to be because some of the songs are so
I see.
long.
So there's not set breaks, or like you don't
it's
have
not like
them
set one
separated.
is this side.
Right,
set
I
two,
got you. I hear what you're
it's
saying.
Just, I mean, it's crazy.
Right.
But and it's got like a 100-page book. It's
So,
pretty awesome.
So you get to Baltimore. You're with the Mickey and Amelia show. You guys moved to mornings. Now this is where, again, I just heard Mickey would talk about the producer Scott a lot, and then you'd start hearing your voice on mic a lot.
Yeah.
Now, was that like out of necessity from Mickey kind of being on and off, or was the plan for you to kind of eventually be a radio personality?
Well, it was interesting because there's, there's hosts and there's producers, right? And the disparity there can be really wide in terms of responsibilities, salary, everything.
Right.
So when I first moved here, I moved here as did I sign with the station? I don't think I even signed a contract at first, but I moved here as an on-air personality.
Huh.
Because what they needed was for me to produce Mickey and Amelia in the afternoons, I also had to host Saturday morning. So I was on air Saturday mornings.
Okay.
And then I was also like a utility guy, filled in for everyone that was out. Like if Sarah was out in middays, I would fill in for her air shift. I would maybe do after. I pretty much did every air shift. I did nights. I don't know if I've ever did overnights. But so I was always like an on-air personality. But then when they moved us to mornings, I actually signed a contract, which
official producer.
Which was like it was an on-air personality contract.
Still, okay.
It was a personality contract, which was big for me because I was getting personality salary,
right?
Which is probably a little bit better than what a producer would have if I was just a producer.
Sure.
So yeah, we were mornings, but I was always. I mean, I did everything a producer did, right? I did, like I said, I pulled the audio, I book all the guests, I would come up with all the segments, I would plan all the shows, I would answer all the phones, I would do all of that, but in addition, I was third or fourth mic,
right?
So that was always just the way it was,
right?
I don't know.
And Mickey and Amelia took
different.
off, right? Like they did all right. You guys were a hell of a morning show. Once they hit, I feel like there were stickers everywhere, and it seemed like I mean, I don't know how you measure success with that. I mean, numbers and stuff, but it seemed like it was a popular show.
Yeah, no, it was a good run. We had a lot of success. I think we did a lot of fun shows. We had a lot of fun. I mean, it was a different type of show. Mickey maybe sometimes led with. He was very like conflict based, he liked to argue and he liked to yell and scream. But he was also hilarious.
Yeah,
I mean, and we did a lot of funny stuff.
Did you guys?
Amelia was just incredible.
Was it Justin Scott Spiegel or was it Mickey and Spiegel? Didn't you guys get like a your prostate examed on air or something? Didn't Spiegel years ago have like his prostate checked?
Yeah,
or I want to say it was Mickey and him, maybe, or was it you guys?
It was, I think it was Mickey, Amelia, and Spiegel, because I remember I booked that segment. I remember I was, and the way,
and the audio. Listen, the audio.
We lost the audio.
Oh my God!
I don't know where that audio went.
It was incredible.
I'm fascinated just by the segment, but the call scheduling it would be my favorite. That's the call I want to hear when you call and say, "Look, this is what we want to do."
I don't remember how I found the. I mean, he was a legitimate doctor. He was a urologist. I think I don't remember who he was. I want to say his last name was Huber, but I don't know if that's accurate. Huber might have been a guy. Anyway, but I remember I remember exactly how we did the segment because we're like, how are we going to do this? So we, in production D, which was down around the corner, we had another, it was a production studio. It was, there was a guy named Jackson who produced all the commercials. I don't know if he was still there at that point, but it was a production studio. But you could turn the mics on in there and patch it through the FM studio, the main studio.
Right. Yep.
So that was where the doctor set up, and that was where we all went to go get our prostates checked. So we had the mics hot in there, and you could hear everything, but you couldn't really see anything. You could just hear it. And yeah, I remember I went and I did it. Mickey did it, and then when Josh did it,
it was incredible.
Dude, the sound.
It was unbelievable radio. It was the greatest.
Like, oh man, I'll never forget that sound.
But you said there's no audio of it now.
Well, I had everything saved, and I'm not going to dime anyone out. But someone somewhere along the way, and I know exactly who it was, did something on the computers and deleted my folder that had like a ton of. And maybe it's on me. I didn't back it up properly, or didn't move it over to a hard drive.
I just remember that segment. Guys at Baltimore County were pulling over because we couldn't breathe. We were like, I mean, you know, like it was unbelievable. The noise, like you said, that noise.
Oh, it was so good.
I would kill to hear it right now, you know.
But, I mean, he said, like, and he's still like that because he just went to the doctor recently and he said it on air. He said that, like, when he was getting his prostate checked, he got so lightheaded that he almost passed out because he gets so worked up. Like, it's like, dude, just relax. You're supposed to relax. You're supposed to relax and just, it'll be, you know, super simple, right? Maybe I've done a little butt play in my life. Right. But the more you relax, the better it is. But he gets so, he goes the opposite way. He gets so tense.
Trying to break the finger off, man.
Well, one of the other great
he almost passed out. I was like, dude.
One of the great Spiegel segments is like they used to send him to Home Depot. And it's like, you think like, what's the big deal going to Home Depot or whatever? But it's like, you know, this guy gets real nervous. He's real uptight.
Yeah, it was another great bit. We gave him like a list of like 20, you know, and they were just normal things
to get.
Maybe some were a little,
it's like me.
Some were a little bit tricky, but it was like, hey, here's, you know, 20 things that a normal person would need. Here's get us a box of drywall screws. Get us a rubber mallet. Get us, and it was, you know, imagine him
then
walking
he goes
into a home.
There's drywall screws. There's 70 different
you
sizes.
Just walk into a Home Depot as like Spiegel, and you're like, oh my! I mean, it's overwhelming for me, and I have, you know, a little bit of something. I know a little something, but like,
that's incredible. I love this. That's the problem with me is I could sit here all day and spitball on great bits because
whatever you want to do, I don't care.
I don't want to cut you off too much because I know I've got a list of things. Okay, so we went over the Spiegel thing. Okay, I want to acknowledge the Flapjack and Pickle Genius. We talked with Justin about that.
Yeah, that was more of like a Justin thing.
Unbelievable troll, citywide troll before trolling was trolling. Incredible. I work for Baltimore County and, you know, it really blew our faces.
The guys he worked with wanted to flip the table.
What
you did worked.
Yeah, listen, I kept thinking,
I don't think I ever really, I mean, I don't know if I've ever had a discussion with people about how that was received.
Well, let me
because
tell
I
you.
remember we went off, Mickey and Amelia went off the air, and then it was going to be Justin, myself, and Josh. And I think we had like a week. We went on the air July 8th.
I thought Justin said you had like a weekend.
Maybe a weekend or a week in between or something, and then we came on the air, but we were like, let's pull a prank and we'll do, hey, the new morning show's Flapjack and the Pickle. And I think we had an hour worth of material. And like that, you know, I think everyone in town knew that Mickey and Amelia were gone, but they didn't know who the new morning show was going to be. So yeah, it was called Flapjack and the Pickle.
Lucky for you, Brian can give
Let me tell you something.
You have a
first-hand account from Baltimore County.
I was in
employees.
What were you doing at the time?
I'm at Inwood Shop in Baltimore County, and
what is that?
We do
Inwood?
It's just one of the regions of the county that
they maintain like the parks and recreation. He does like snow removal
from Lansdowne to
you do lawn mowing and stuff.
Yeah, right. We mow the ball fields, any LOS, local open spaces of the park, stuff like that.
So all the dudes in this shop, they're all showing up.
So all these dudes in this shop are 98 Rock fans. They love it. I'm kind of a goofball. I'm the shop goofball. So we're in the shop that day. We're doing truck work and stuff like that. We've got the radio blasting and Flapjack and the Pickle debut. Now, I love good comedy. So I'm sitting there going, it's a bit. It's got to be a bit, you know? And they're all like, all right, you know, this is awful. And I'm like, yeah, but it's fucking genius. It's a bit, you know? And as the hour goes, it keeps going. You guys were cutting the breaks. You bring in Millsy at one point. You know, you're talking about stuff from Cleveland or wherever the show was supposed to be from.
Right.
And people are getting pissed. Like, they're like, you know.
After a while, like, no, this is
weird.
Eric
Rehnquist is like
Lepo. Like, we're going to give this 5 minutes and we're burning it down.
Eric Rehnquist is like, Lepo, you have 3 more minutes of this shit, and I'm going to throw it through the fucking wall. And the next break, all of a sudden, you guys came on like heroes, and I was like, yes. But it was so funny because I thought it was great, but a lot of the guys there were like, this is the most offensive thing I've ever heard in my life. Now, they didn't realize that it was you guys. They thought it was legitimately.
Like, I think we had Steve Huber, who worked for us back then. I think he was like Flapjack.
It was unbelievable.
And then I don't remember who Pickle was. Maybe like our buddy Lauer or something. But yeah, I mean, it was 2 dudes that we worked with. Justin, he knows all those goofy radio names, Flapjack and the Pickle.
Right.
And yeah, I think they just kind of sat down and we recorded a whole bunch of what would be, you know, hokey radio bits.
Right. Epic troll.
And I don't think we made it the whole hour, though. I think we were like, we got to pull the plug on this. And then we came on the air.
Well, I kept thinking, if the guys at the shop are melting down like this, corporate's got to be losing their mind. Because
I mean, you'd be surprised, dude. And I don't want to toot our own horn, but we're a pretty good radio show. I mean, I don't know how much traveling you do, but every time I travel, I put on local radio because I want to hear it, and I try and figure out who the morning show are in this market, that market. And there's not a lot of good morning radio shows.
I don't
and
really do that.
there's shows that are not far removed from a Flapjack and the Pickle.
Oh yeah,
that are out there.
Well, that's why they didn't think it was a lie. They thought it was the real
it
show.
You go to Duluth or something. That's a real show.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what you get, which is sad.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, so now one other thing that I want to bring up before we go too far from those early years, and you might not know when this happened, but there was a Eliza Schlesinger incident that happened, that's when I started being like, Scott, man, my man Scott handles stuff interesting, because what I recall was Eliza Schlesinger, the comedian, came into the studio, and you guys were interviewing her. I don't even know if this, maybe it was Mickey and Amelia and Justin was sitting in, or was it Justin, Scott, and Spiegel?
I think it was us.
Okay.
I think so.
And do you remember how it went down? I mean, from what I recall, Justin's, mother.
Did he talk about this?
Yes, we've talked.
What did he say? Oh, okay, Justin's mom or something.
Right. So what had happened was Justin's mother, unfortunately, was a victim of suicide.
Yes, we've talked
years
about
ago.
that.
We talked to Justin about that on air. So he, and on air, she said something that was very. It just caught him the wrong way.
But up until that point, she had been a bit of a pain in the ass. I don't remember what it was.
Right, and that's what I recall is that immediately after the next break,
that was the point where it was like, all right, just get the F out.
Right, after the break came back, you were like, okay, we're going to move on from that. She's no longer here, and basically it was like we're going to, and Justin apologized because he felt bad, but it was just one of those moments where it was good radio. Like, although it was probably upsetting at the time, it was the first spot of good radio in real time Scott that I was like, hey, that's good friendship.
It took me going from, at that point I was a host, right? And then going from like a producer to a host, it was a very difficult transition because when you're a producer, you're one step removed. You're there, but you're not the guy, right? It was like Mickey, Amelia, and Spiegel. They were the guys. So I was always I was always like shielded, right? And I could snipe, and I was the producer. I wasn't one of the hosts. When you go from that to being a host, it takes a while to find your voice. And if you go back and you watch some of the earlier shows, there's that Trouble in Paradise video where Justin and I were fighting. There's some other things.
Yes.
And I still had that weird, like, combative, snarky, which is what I needed with Mickey. I needed that, right? I needed that to go up against Mickey. And then I realized after a year or two of doing Justin, Scott, and Spiegel, I'm like, all right, that's not going to work anymore. I need to change. I need to evolve. I need to morph into something different. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn how to do it differently.
Yeah, right.
And part of that was, I think with Eliza, that was more of us like feeling like, all right, we kind of know ourselves as a show now. Mm-hmm. But she was like a kind of a big name,
she
right?
She was a big name, and she had a Netflix special.
So maybe so you're thinking to yourself,
recently,
right? So but even back then, so you're thinking to yourself, like, all right, well, do you just kind of like let her big time the room? Do you let her come in here and maybe disrespect us a little because she is a big name, or how do you handle this?
Right.
And I think that was one of the first earlier times where we were like, well, wait a minute, this is our fucking show,
right,
and we're doing the, like, you just don't come in here and treat us that way, or you don't be a bitch to us. You got a show in town, you're promoting your show, we're doing our show. And it was right from the very beginning. It didn't work, and then it just got worse and worse and worse. Finally, to the point where, like, just get out.
I remember
just
what
get
it
out.
was.
Like, we don't want you here.
It just hit me like a brick shit house. What it was you could tell that there was, she was a little bit not working well with the room, and for whatever reason, Justin mentioned in real time that his mother killed herself, and Eliza said something to the effect of, "It was probably your fault." or was it your fault or something, and it caught Justin just wrong. Well, and he actually, well, sure, but as a comedian, he did come back in the room eventually and say that he kind of felt, a humor is fair game.
But my point is, but even like if she had been cool, like up until that point, we were all getting along and it was funny and we were vibing, then maybe that might not have hit. Like that might not have hit like that. But because she was doing herself no favors. And then she's,
say something
goes at Justin sideways. I think that was one of the first that I can remember of that, where we all kind of looked at each other and we're like, you know what? We've got our own thing going on here. People love us and respect us.
Sure.
We don't need this person to be in here doing that to us. So you can just go about your merry way and we'll be fine. And we've never had her in since. And I've watched a lot of her stuff since then, and I've watched interviews with her since then. Every time she's on the TV, I watch. And I just don't like. I don't know. I don't like what she brings to the table. I'm not going to say I don't like her as a person. I don't really know her as a person. She seems a bit insufferable. She's got her own thing. She's been very successful.
Yeah,
it's just not. It's not my thing. Yeah. It's not my thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, know this, that like the whole shop was kind of like, fuck yeah, like that. Right. It's a bonding thing. It's good stuff.
I wouldn't say that's probably common though. If you haven't had to do that before.
Well, I've had a lot of moments that people remember, specifically for me.
Oh,
and I think I just get it from my mom. My mom was if she saw something that she didn't think was right, she would not bite her tongue. She would say something.
Right.
And I think I kind of get that from her. Like I had the run-in with the mayor, with Catherine Pugh.
Yeah, Scott, let's hover on that real quick. Mike, let me bring you up to speed just a little bit. And we go hard on this show in the sense of we talk about...
What did you just call me?
Mike. Sorry, Woe Davis.
I don't think I've ever
called you that, but he makes me feel like I should be.
Sure.
Anyway, but here's the score: is that wait, damn it, Woe Davis,
Catherine Pugh,
right? Many years ago, during the Baltimore riots and all that shit, Scott and many people in Baltimore had a good friend of his, a good friend of his wife, best friend of a lifelong friend, got murdered. One of the many tragic killings in Baltimore. And literally like 7 days later, Mayor Catherine Pugh came on the radio to talk to Scott and Justin about how the city's on the comeback, or maybe, I'm not exactly sure what it was, but go ahead and go from there.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but remember she was in the studio. And, we wanted to have a meaningful exchange with her. We just wanted to talk about some stuff like, hey, we all know what the hell's going on with this city. There's the murder rate's out of control. Violence is out of control. Let's talk. Right. And she came in and she had a bunch of bullet points. I remember one thing was like fixing the lights in certain areas, which is fine. You light a place up, maybe it's safer. But then she was like filibustering us, basically. Right. She was just trying to talk, and we couldn't really get a word in edgewise. And like you said, I had just been through a really awful thing where my friends and family had lost a loved one to gun violence. Shout out Alex Robleski, we love you. Shout out Mr. Al, shout out Miss Mary. But like, she wasn't, and that was another instance where we were all sitting there like, this is our show. Yes. Like, this is our thing. You're in our house. Like, we run the ship here. Like, we're going to ask the questions. We're in control. She was trying to take control of the room, trying to do things on her own term, trying to read the bullet points she wanted to read. And we just got sick of it. And I think I can't remember what I said to her. I'm like, she just kept talking. I said, you've talked enough.
Listen,
like,
it was amazing.
I said, it's time for, like, okay, like, you need to, you've talked enough. And I remember, like, it hit her like a ton of bricks, because she turned around and looked at her security guard like, who is this motherfucker?
Right.
She looked at her security guard like, what did he just say? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, this is our show. Yeah. We're going to talk.
Dude, it got incredible. Yeah. It was incredible.
And it wasn't like I didn't plan it, but it was just like, what are you doing? Like, just, I don't know.
It was real radio. And listen, in real time, Spiegel and Justin are there. And Justin always, he likes to keep the ship kind of like happy and whatever.
Right.
So, but the second that Scott like shut it down like that, it was a pin drop. Yeah. And then it just became kind of good radio.
Yeah.
But serious radio.
Yeah. And that's like, listen, those moments.
I thought you were going to get in trouble. I swear to Christ. I was like, holy shit.
I think I did have a meeting with management after that. They were like, hey. And I was like, look, I didn't really do anything wrong. I just was kind of.
You were very respectful and curt.
I'll tell you this, a little behind the scenes, like what happened after we got off the air. She was in tears. Wow. Come to find out, she's, whatever, the healthy Holly thing. She's a bit of a shyster, right? She stole money and this whole thing. But she was like in tears. She was, because I kind of called her out. She tried to come in. She knew she had like this media appearance booked, and she tried to come in, big time the room, take over control, just, push her agenda and we kind of called her on it. And then the mics go off, and she's in tears, and I'm like in tears because I had just lost Alex, my ex-wife. Alex was her best friend, like literally her best friend. Yep. So I saw firsthand what gun violence and murder in this city can do. Her my brother-in-law Lou, and all the Locust Point dudes, like I saw the loss, and I saw it firsthand, and it crushed me. So then I'm very emotional. I'm in tears. Like we like hugged each other, and we had like this moment, and we're like, we'll figure it out. We all know we want the best for the city. Right. And it was a really beautiful moment. Right. But it took, some bullshit to get to that moment. Right. And that moment was an off-air moment, which I wish it maybe would have been on air, because that's what we wanted from her, right? Like had she done that on air instead of coming in and trying to filibuster us and push us out, like, no, let's have a conversation.
Sure. And look, that's an interesting thing to hover on, though. Just not that I have empathy for what was her name? The mayor at the time? Pugh. Right. I get it. If you're a criminal, you got to go to jail, all that nonsense. But it is interesting to think that even the mayor of a city that is struggling knows someone that has been hurt to the point where they can't even deal with it. And when it comes up, it becomes such an emotional juggernaut. And what you did was you didn't allow her to sidestep the reality of those moments.
Well, and that's the thing. And she knew the reality of what was happening. And I think the tears were like, even she as the mayor, she knew, like, look, I want as badly as all you guys to fix this. But the reality is, it's like, how? Right. It's a very hard problem. I can. Yeah. And she can't say all that, but it's like, how do I do this? How do we fix it? It's probably not gonna get fixed. Right. And that's just the reality of it. And I think, we just, and we weren't looking for her to say all that, but we wanted her to say something. And she just wasn't giving us anything. Right.
Right. Dude, it was incredible radio. And again, everybody was really pulling for you and proud of you.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few moments. Like, here's the thing. I moved to this town, and I very quickly learned what this town was about, right? The people in this town are real. They're blue collar. They don't bullshit you. They're either going to accept you or not accept you. I got lucky. I met a woman that was from Baltimore, and through her, I got introduced to a lot of real Baltimore people. And from there, I learned, who these people were. But I didn't do anything but be myself when I got here. That's all I've ever done. And just me being myself was enough to win over these people that I knew outside the radio, to win over the people that knew me through the radio. Right. And that's what people want. When you're real like that, and they can form that connection with you through the radio. I mean, you become a made man at that point. Like, it's, they'll do anything for you, and I'll do anything for them. Like, I love the people of the city. I love our listeners. They know who I am through and through. I'm not a fake person. I've for 20 years now. You know exactly who I am. You know what you're getting, for better or worse sometimes. Even with the guys in the studio, it's for better or worse. Sometimes I'm a bit of an asshole. Sometimes I'm a bit rough. Sometimes I don't do things the proper way. Right. And I've gone to therapy, and I've tried to get better, and I think I'm better. You are better. And I've gotten older. I've been through more stuff. Right. You learn, you learn the right way, the wrong way. But sometimes the right way is on the air, and sometimes the wrong way is on the air. It's always, and you're just like, okay, well, you're either going to stick by me and we're going to get through this and we're going to grow together, or we're going to, and through 20 years, it's been like, this has been the path. And I really wear that as a badge of honor that
you shouldn't.
I've really done nothing but be myself, and to win over a city like Baltimore, I feel like I won the lottery.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I agree. Being yourself is huge. I mean, it's
But especially
Just
like
be-
in a,
be-
t-
be
in a town like,
authentic,
yeah,
like-
but and that's what this town wants. They'll sniff
let
you
people
out.
see emotion.
Authenticism
Let
is
people
so-
see emotion.
right.
Let people see you have a bad day. Let people see everything. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I always, because with that is, I always, in the back of my mind, I know that no matter what I'm saying, no matter what I'm talking about, no matter how gnarly something is, like when my cousin died from fentanyl, like that was a huge thing for me 3 years ago.
gonna bring that
My
up.
grandfather died, like all this. I know that I have to go on the air and I have to talk about this because there's someone else out there that is going through this,
Yes.
has gone through this, will go through this, and that me talking about this in some way is either helping them immediately, will help them in the future, or they can relate to it because they've gone through it.
Yeah.
There's nothing ever I could say on the air
Yeah.
that someone is not going
To relate to.
or is
Sure,
going to resonate
yeah.
to. And that's you have to do that. I mean, that's it. There are maybe sometimes hard discussions,
Right.
but you have to put that out there because that helps so many people.
Right. So just so you know, because you're not an everyday listener, but Scott is Italian. Woe Davis is Italian.
And Irish. I guess my dad.
Yeah,
if
no,
my
I'm
dad's
Italian
listening,
and Irish.
okay.
Yeah, I can't say
But my
that.
dad always gets mad at me because I lean.
He's
more
like,
to-
Scott, you can't.
Don't forget you're 50% Irish. I'm like, I get it.
Right.
But Scott's grandfather was an old Italian, you know, and they would prank call his grandfather
those
on
were
air.
great, too. Yeah, those
and
were
it
great.
was fucking incredible.
Yeah,
but
those were great.
yeah, they,
Kind of like how we would call Steve Kearns' old
Kearns-
his
right.
grandmother.
Right.
She couldn't speak English at all.
yeah. Well,
'Cause
that's
she
the
used to
exact
always-
same
That was
thing.
kind of-
We'd
yeah, that was
call,
kind of
we'd
live.
call and just ask her if we knew Steve wasn't there, he'd be with us, and she would just be like,
Yes, exactly.
Stevie, no homo.
No homo.
We know. Is he home?
That's brilliant.
Stevie, no. That's all she could say.
No homo.
Stevie No Homo is wonderful. That's my favorite.
That's fantastic.
So over the years, who's the most famous person you've probably
Oh yeah,
you've
that's
met?
what I was gonna say. Like, well, not. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. Do you
Let him
have
ask
you?
it. Would
Yeah,
you
I
let
feel
him
like a
ask it?
dickhead.
He's
I'm
got
sorry.
He's got a whole
Yeah,
notebook. He has a whole notebook.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
well,
I knew I was going to do
trust
this.
me. I know with you guys,
Yeah.
like Brian he's been excited for
I
quite a
love
while.
JSS.
But no, I'm not saying it was just kind of along the lines.
No,
Like,
I
do you
just-
get like starstruck and like who's your most memorable guest? Is that what you said? That's kind of what
Basically,
you
well,
said.
yeah, like who's the most famous? Or
Do I get starstruck? Maybe sometimes. I don't know. I've had some pretty cool like full circle moments where we had Slash in. Maybe we've had Slash in twice, and the second time he came through, he like remembered who I was,
Yep.
and he kind of was put at ease by that. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember you."
Cool.
And
That's awesome.
he was awesome. He's such a sweet guy. I think his real name is Saul.
yep,
Yeah,
Saul
yeah.
Hudson.
And,
I
yeah,
read
Saul
his biography.
Hudson, and he's just a but you're sitting there, and like where you're sitting,
Right.
it's Slash, and you're like, what the. Like, how did I end up here? And I shook his hand, and while I was shaking his hand, I'm like, that hand is responsible for some of the greatest riffs in rock and roll
Sure,
history.
100%,
I'm like,
sure.
this is insane.
That's awesome.
And I remember I have a vivid memory. Whatever year Appetite for Destruction came out, my Aunt
87.
Angie bought me Appetite for Destruction on cassette.
Yep, I had
And do
it.
you remember when they put the cassette in those big long plastic
Yes.
like
Oh, yeah, right, right.
anti-theft devices?
Yes.
Yeah, they had to key open it.
I'm pretty sure she shoplifted it because it was wrapped in that plastic. It was in the plastic.
That means she ran.
That's
She
what I'm
ran
thinking.
out of the
I
store.
think she might have stolen it. So I remember like Christmas Eve, I'm with a screwdriver trying to pop open this plastic thing.
That's
I put
awesome.
Appetite for Destruction in. It's Welcome to the Jungle. Then it's So Easy. And then he says it's so fucking easy. And I'm like 12 years old and my
Yeah,
head
yeah.
explodes.
Right.
And I was like, so yeah, that was like awesome. Then we met Lars from Metallica. We interviewed him twice back to back when they came to M&T Bank Stadium. Once again, a full circle moment. I mean, you're sitting there with Lars.
And
And
didn't
then
you
we
guys-
dressed as Metallica.
Yes,
we
right.
dressed as Metallica. So we're sitting there I'm dressed like Robert Trujillo and, whatever. We're all dressed as Metallica and we're interviewing Lars. That was awesome. Yeah, I don't know. Like, Gavin Rossdale from Bush. That was on Zoom. That was during, like, I think maybe coronavirus, but he spent, like, I think 2 hours with us.
Yeah,
and that was awesome. Like, he was great.
You
I
guys
mean, you
had
have
a
to
couple
remember they're
good
all they're
call-ins
really
during
they're just
COVID.
people, right?
Yeah,
And you have to
yeah,
remember they're
right.
just people. And at the end of the day, like I have a little inkling of fame, right? And he thinks who I am,
Right.
But you got to realize that like I'm just a dude. Man.
Oh, dude!
I
Like
just-
I would. I mean, I was a little starstruck when my wife came in September, and I was sitting in there watching you guys.
Yeah,
I
right.
remember- I was like, yeah,
I
mean,
go,
this is cool.
I'm just a guy, and it's like even Slash is just really just a guy,
Right.
He just happens to be Slash from Guns N' Roses, but.
I've met famous people over the years, and it is that. You're just
met-
kind of
yeah,
like, oh
back
shit,
when-
I
remember-
sold grass to two of the guys in Fish. We went
Right.
backstage
Hell
and
yeah.
smoked
Yeah, I've
grass
never
with
met
Mike
any of
and
them.
Fishman.
Well, you may not have been in Baltimore yet. Do you remember Bowhaggers? Were you here?
Bowhanger, I remember.
It's not there
Shout
anymore.
out to
I
my
mean,
buddy Kenny. Kenny was a bartender at Bowhager's,
Yeah.
and he was Baltimore's best bartender 2 years in a row.
That's awesome. So I was in Bowhager's one night, and this was in maybe 96, 97, and it was late. It was a random night. I don't remember what we were doing, but we were drinking, and John Lovitz was there with
Yep,
two of
we've
his
had John
friends.
in, yeah.
But I'm just sitting there staring at, like, I'm looking at his friend, or I'm looking at him, and I'm in a booth looking at him. His two friends have their back, and they kind of keep looking around. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to go up and say, I was
You
like,
did.
it's John Lovett. So I just walked
You
up
did
and I
it.
was like, hey, man, I'm a huge fan. And his friends were just like, dude, we've seen you. We've been watching you.
Yeah.
Look at him
It's
the whole
hard
time.
not to
We were
stare.
wondering.
I know.
We were making bets on whether you were finally going to come up. And I went over to the bar and they gave me like a Post-it and he wrote, hi, Mike, John Lovett's on it. And I still have it. It was awesome. It was so funny that they were just like, he's not coming. The one dude was like, he's going to come. They're like, he's not coming. He's not coming. And finally I was like, fuck it. They're like, here he comes.
He's been in studio, like comics as well. We've had a lot of great comics. We've had like Kevin Nealon in there.
Yeah.
We've had John Lovitz.
I love Nealon.
He was great. He was such a gracious, like just a nice guy. I don't know. It's just weird for me because like you said, you kind of grow up seeing these people or watching these people, and then somehow you end up on a radio show, and then you're interviewing these people. And
Yeah.
you're like, who's the guy that died that Spiegs loved? Why can't I think of his
Jim
name?
Ross?
Gilbert Godfrey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was
Oh,
great.
my gosh.
Yeah, he was great.
Were you there that morning when Gilbert Godfrey?
I was out. I missed that. Where he,
So what? It was
like
Justin
the crack
and
baby
Spiegel?
story. Or
I've never in
something.
my life. I had to pull
Yeah.
over. I was
Yeah.
laughing so hard. Gilbert Godfrey came on, and for whatever reason,
Spiegel did a story about like a
Spiegel
crack
was
baby.
reading the news, and the news was a woman like smoking crack.
while breastfeeding a baby.
Breastfeed, right? She
Yeah,
was
yeah,
smoking.
yeah.
She got arrested because she was breastfeeding while smoking crack. The minute that statement left his mouth, Gilbert Godfrey
Just lost it.
lost his mind and started going, ha, ha,
Right.
That,
loud
like,
as shit.
Gilbert laugh. Oh, my
Then
God.
Spiegel starts laughing, and then Justin starts laughing, and they're laughing at a baby, or like a crackhead.
the most,
right,
the
right.
most like inappropriate thing to laugh at.
And
but
it
was
goes off the
just
rails for a full minute. They
Right.
can't get a hold of themselves. You look it up. It's an
That
incredible
was not his
moment
real
of radio.
voice either, correct?
That's I've always, and that was another thing. Like I was a huge Howard Stern fan growing up. That kind of maybe like when I got into radio, it all clicked for me. I was like, wait a minute. Maybe this is like where I'm supposed to be because like I loved radio growing
Right.
up. But but like when I was in college, I didn't realize like, okay, it didn't click until I started to work at a radio station. I go, wait a minute, like, okay. Then like I was started to think back to like Howard Stern, and I started
Right.
to think back to Z100, and I started to think Scott Shannon and Scott Todd and Howard and all those guys, and I would call radio stations and request songs, and I would record. But that was always the thing that Gary, if you Google it, like apparently has a voicemail from Gilbert.
Right. I feel like
And it's
you're
like,
talking
"Hey,
about Gary from
Gary."
Howard Stern.
Yeah, he's like, hey Gary, it's Gilbert. I'm not
Right.
I'm not gonna make the show today, sorry. And it's like that's supposedly Gilbert's like real voice.
Wow, that's interesting.
No,
And
I've heard that
yeah,
recently.
yeah.
That's why I asked. Like it's like very normal.
Yeah, because I've heard him talk
From the- in
like
the-
low key,
Right.
but never officially.
Who did that artwork right there?
Thomas Pierce.
That's my brother-in-law.
Thomas Pierce?
Yes, Sandy Pierce is his ex.
Oh,
my
that's
ex-brother-in-law. I don't know how to say it, but yeah.
Yeah, no.
I was looking at him like, that's Tommy Pierce.
Yeah, no, we're getting him on eventually. Like I've
Do
talked
it.
to him,
He's
but
awesome.
I bought that at Christopher Schaefer's first variety show. He had his art displayed, and Justin has the Blade Runner, the big Blade Runner thing.
We all have his artwork in our houses.
So do we in the same.
I wanted to give him. I thought that was him.
The caveman was appropriate for us. Like,
Scott. Part of our vibe with the show, even though the city has serious issues and it's got a lot of work to do, is we're trying to bring a positive light to Baltimore in general.
There's so
much. You know
much,
what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah,
and it's like
awesome.
It's not just what you think it is. I love the Wire. Don't get me wrong, but it's not just
the bands, the art, the restaurants.
Right. Speaking, I guess going back to like the blue collar work, before I forget, because Metallica reminded me of it. One of our buddies works for UPS and he delivers to you.
That's him.
It's this guy right here.
Yeah, I don't know if you recognize him, but are you?
We
UPS
asked him if you've
driver,
ever been home, and he never answered.
Yeah, he never answered.
My old UPS guy used to be Sterling. Does he know Sterling? He's got to know Sterling.
Probably.
He's been with the company for about 25 years.
Well, Sterling,
Kenny, right?
Sterling was my guy for a while.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 20.
And Sterling was awesome. He was a really, really great guy, and I got to know him over the years. But I don't know if I've ever. What's his name?
Kenny Harrison.
I don't know if I've ever seen Kenny.
Yeah.
Shout out Kenny.
Yeah, well, he's around. You know, he's around, and he knows. So if you ever see him,
we've all been friends since the 90s.
Yeah, we don't have him in here because of you.
Handsome.
You have no idea.
No,
Scott.
yeah, I mean, if there's times where people are like, I saw you and I didn't know if I should. I'm like, just unless I'm really doing something private, I just come up and say hi.
Sure,
I don't
sure.
care. I don't care. I love it. It's makes me happy.
Now, Scott, what's you got any history with psychedelics?
Not a ton. I've just recently started experimenting with mushrooms.
Is that right?
Yeah.
For the first time?
No, I've done them a bunch now.
Okay. And do you kind of just...
I was more of like an alcohol, weed person, but then I kind of just got more into alcohol. But as I look back, I'm like, I kind of wish I was more of a weed person because now I've gotten away from alcohol.
Yeah.
And I realized like the other day I went to watch the Texans Kansas City game. Right. And my buddy was driving, so we were out at Das Beer Hall. Shout out Das. One of my favorite spots.
I lived in.
And I was like, well, I'm not driving. And I'm like, I'm here. It's a Saturday, right? It was a Saturday game. I don't have to work tomorrow. I'm like, let me have some drinks. And it was just like, I don't know. I had a few drinks. And the next day, even that day, I'm like, I don't. So I kind of, had I taken all those years where I was just drinking myself to, I don't want to say death, but, to whatever, like had I maybe done other stuff, it probably... It's like weed's a lot more less invasive.
It's a strange
especially
thing.
These days.
It doesn't put, the alcohol just can really, I lost an ear.
I did too. I lost my left ear.
I'm good.
Well, let's hope the recording.
Yeah, I don't know if the recording is in 2 channels, but so now that weed is legal, I'm kind of maybe leaning, doing that a little. I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm sober, but because I'm not.
Right.
But I'm just trying to be, more sober than not these days.
Yeah, I mean, I drink, but I don't drink nearly as much as people think I do.
No, you don't go like you used to.
I don't
go.
even drink every weekend, to be honest. I really don't.
Right. Well, it's one of those things.
Old.
Yeah,
it's one of those.
Well, we are, but I still I have a superpower of not getting hangovers when I do drink.
Oh, do you
still?
really?
And I'm going to be 50
He's an animal.
this year.
Yeah,
I'm 48, so
but
no. So then, like, I never really did many. I did like mushrooms in college a few times, but then within the last few years, we've gotten a line on some.
Right.
Like we have a connection. I think you know who it is.
Yeah, we do.
And I was like, well, let me just see what's
Dabble.
what.
Yeah. Right.
And I've had really good experiences. I really like it.
Yeah.
And you know what else helped me get there? I like to know what I'm getting into. And when what did they do? They took like mushrooms and they're not a class 1 narcotic anymore.
Right.
They
It's
they
not a Schedule
declassified it.
Right.
It's
Right.
not a Schedule 1,
Yeah.
which means they can like use it for research now.
Sure.
And then you read that article from Hopkins where they have an entire wing now that is dedicated to psilocybin research.
Yeah.
Where they're saying like because this drug was a class 1 for so many years and nobody was able to research it and see what it was capable of, they're realizing how incredible this, psilocybin, which is in mushrooms, how incredible this drug can be, and how it helps people with addiction. It helps people with depression. It helps people. They're starting to put it in capsules. I think Big Pharma is very worried because all those little white pills that they've been putting out for all these years, medicating people, they're like, oh crap, there's this thing that you can grow in your backyard, which might even be better for you.
Yeah,
so I think Big Pharma is trying to figure out how to get in on it and like this all the. But
the
like so for that for me,
wild.
I was like, let me see what it's all about. And I've done it. I don't know, a bunch of times, and I've always done it around people I know and love, and safe environments. And,
it's important.
And and it's always been and I haven't gone where I'm like I want to see God. I've maybe gotten close. I've had moments while on it where I'm like, this is, you see the world through a different lens. You're like, okay,
100%.
this is beautiful. This is amazing. I see what life can be. But I've never tripped, like super, super, super hard. But I definitely like tripped. And I I think I'm at the point now where maybe a few times a year, I like to kind of do it. I feel like it's good for your brain.
It's a good reset.
Technically, like you should only every 6 months. You shouldn't
I think
do
that's
it more often than that. Unless you're a psychopath,
right?
Not.
Well,
I feel like it helps to reset the brain, help to
Yep.
restore some of the connections. I think it's a really healthy thing to do. And I'll probably continue to do it. I don't think I've had any real bad experiences. Have you guys had like bad trips?
Well, yeah.
Over the years, not really on mushrooms.
I'm not on mushrooms.
Acid.
Actually,
I'm afraid of it. I won't do acid.
No,
Actually, I did have a bad
I'm not
trip
really
on
interested in
mushrooms.
acid
at the
anymore.
fish show in Atlanta, Georgia in 2000. It was Lakewood 2000, July 3rd. And I just remember that because it was such a crazy night. But I was walking through the lot, and it was like noon, and we hadn't eaten any food.
Right.
And it was probably 90 degrees, and this fucking witch came out of nowhere with this basket, and she was like, here. And she had a chocolate-covered mushroom. And this is like 99, so I hadn't seen one. Like, I always had mushrooms, but I never saw a chocolate-covered mushroom at that point. And we all bought them. And I just remember I threw that sumbitch in my mouth and started chewing, and I'm walking along, and every person with me, maybe you, but I don't know if you were there.
No, I was in Lakewood Amphitheater.
But I went 2 years in a row.
I don't know if it was the same year.
But anyway, because I was with April at the time.
No.
But all I know is that I ate it, we're walking along, and every person there was like, did you just eat that? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, dude, the show doesn't start for like 2 hours. Like, we haven't eaten food.
You want to be peaking at the right
They're
moment.
like, we haven't eaten any food. We're not eating yet. And I'm like,
so did that already get you off to a bad start?
So automatically, I'm like, damn.
Yeah,
you're I'm hungry.
You're in a bad headspace.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Listen,
that's not your first time.
Listen,
your first.
I know. I was just saying. I wasn't
You
in
were
my
just
right
like,
mind.
yeah,
it was
Here,
the chocolate.
it gets
The
worse.
chocolate threw them off.
It gets
was
worse.
the chocolate.
It delivered it quick. I'm serious.
Yeah.
It gets worse. That was the same year that I was dealing serious drugs.
Yeah.
This was in August or July, and I got raided in September.
Sure, yeah.
I was on the road with like that tour with a bag with a pound of grass.
Yeah.
Broken up, cash on me. We're coming up to the show.
God, that was
I'm
such
out
shitty
of
weed
my
back then.
mind.
Yeah,
Everything is spinning, and I'm standing in the line to get into Lakewood, and all of a sudden I look to my right, and there's cops on horseback, 6 of them sitting there, and there's this fucking horse, and the snout's sitting right beside me. It's going, and
You're high on
I
shrooms.
look to my right, and then I look up, and there's this cop, and they're looking at me, and the horse is going, I know. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, I'm like, Christ, I'm in the line. I'm getting ready to get searched.
Right.
I've got a fucking bag. Like, I'm out of my mind.
Right.
So
you still had the backpack
I
on
had
you.
the backpack
On
on
you.
me. I had 8th row center for Lakewood. And
nice.
I looked at April and I said, I can't handle this. I can't handle
Did
this.
you not go in?
I didn't go in. I gave my tickets away. I gave my 2 tickets away, 8th row center, and I sat on the hill at Lakewood watching the world melt down.
Yeah.
And I could hear the show and
Yeah,
see
yeah,
the
yeah.
light.
So was it all right? So like, I mean, it goes on for hours. Like you hear that, right? But
Yeah.
and I think that scares people off. They're like, well, I don't want to be like that
Right.
for like hours. But like, anytime I've done it, you can be present, but you can also be
Right, but it's important.
altered.
Like what he did was kind of what's the word?
Not smart.
Well, like spur of
Set
the moment.
and
You
setting.
just ate it, and
Yes.
but like controlled environment
Yeah, yeah.
is
Controlled environment,
important.
set-
Of course.
Yeah, yeah.
It's important. And just knowing what you're in for, you just can't.
Right.
It can't be just.
And what I
random.
found
So
is-
was it like after you had gotten to the hill though? Did you mellow out? Did you come down a little bit?
I've had bad trips before then.
What were you
So
planning
at
on
that
doing
point-
if you didn't eat that chocolate? What were you doing with your book bag?
Well,
it
I was
supposed to
selling
be
in the
let-
lot.
and
And
you
he
were supposed to
probably
leave
would-
it in
yeah,
the
he
car.
Yeah, and then
probably
I was going to
remembered.
walk back to the
Right,
car beforehand and put it in the
You
car.
weren't
Like
head-
like it just all of a sudden my world melted down,
right,
and next thing I know, I'm in the fucking line,
Yeah.
and there's
Did
cops
she go
everywhere.
in?
No, she sat on the hill
Yeah.
with me because
good
good
woman.
girlfriend. Yeah, at the time. Yeah.
At the time.
But that being said, I had bad trips on acid
Yeah.
before then, so I knew how to handle myself. We are a psychonauts from back in the day. We've eaten a lot of psychedelics over the years leading up to this, and I'm a big proponent in them. I do think you're right to probably just stay with psilocybin at this point because acid is
There's
just
no need for acid.
time
No, I'm a
wise.
grown
It's
ass
time
man.
wise.
I'm smart about it. I pick my moments, and I don't get me wrong, right? I have a lot of curiosities. I think like anyone does, but there's certain things that scare me. I've never done cocaine in my
Right.
life.
Christ, I am.
I've just, it seems like it seems amazing,
Yeah.
but the downside outweighs.
Yeah,
the good,
shrooms is a commitment, but it's not like acid. You ate acid on a Saturday or even a Friday, like you're probably not going to go to work on Monday because you're still going to be coming back to reality.
Oh, really?
Yeah, listen, we've
Like,
had
yeah.
runs where it's 8 to 10 hours, but we've also
I've
runs.
had 18 hours of solid.
Now, but how does that let's say hour 10? Like, what is happening?
In my experience, I was harboring a fugitive at the Atlantis in Ocean City.
That's
while
real.
The police were in,
That wasn't a
While the police
hallucination.
were
Yeah.
in, it was during senior week. It was the police were in the room searching for this person who was under a pile of clothes in the corner, and I was sitting on the couch
While you're on acid.
pretending to be asleep. Me and my friend Reno. Shout out Reno.
Reno, baby. Yeah.
And before it started way down early, or way down on the early streets. And I remember, I'll never forget, like when it kicked in. I was just sitting on this balcony at my friend's place where we all ate it. And I was sitting on the balcony staring at the bay and had my feet up on the table, and I was just sitting there watching seagulls, and it slowly and then all of a sudden a seagull just like flew right up and just the tracer flew, and I was like, all right, here we go. And
Right.
then
You're on it.
we ended
but
up
like-
walking
Well, that's what I'm saying.
this
Like,
was
so are you out and about? Are you doing stuff?
we were
Are
doing
you-
everything. I mean,
That's what I mean. You can be tripping, but also
yeah.
still
we ended
kinda
up on the beach. It was I was never nervous except for that moment. I was a little nervous, but we were sober. Like we hadn't been drinking.
Right. And
we
that-
didn't have anything on us.
and
We were
that's
just wandering
kinda-
around, and
that's-
these guys had bongs. I mean, this is 1993, so everything's like still
and dude
highly
had
illegal.
gun.
Yeah.
Jason definitely had a gun.
Yeah,
So, I
yeah. And
guarantee
then the cops left and then proceeded to surround the building just because they knew this guy was in there, and they couldn't find him. They didn't have a warrant to come in, and Dennis was shouting
Jesus
that
Christ.
vocally, and the cops finally left, but they surrounded the building and waited for this. This guy had like beat the shit out of two people at a gas station and broke a gas pump.
Wait,
like
so
the police
why
were
was
look-
he in your room? Is this?
He went
that's
to
where
school
he was
with us.
staying. That's where he was staying.
Was he a friend of yours?
Well, he's an acquaintance.
They were all like, I wouldn't necessarily call them all friends, but we all knew each other. But
We might have gotten the
when the
acid from
police
him,
left,
actually.
they were like, you guys, me and Rena, they were like, can you guys take all these bongs and everything out of here in backpacks? We're like, are you kidding me? Like, there's police everywhere. They're like, but they're not looking for you. So we did it. We loaded up. We filled backpacks with all the paraphernalia and
Now, when
everything,
you're
and just
high,
walked
when you're
right out the
like
door.
tripping on acid, and so is there like a knock at the door, and then you open it and it's
Yes,
the cops,
and they just came right in.
and then
I was
so
just
you're
like-
high on acid and you open.
I didn't open the door. One of the
you
other
obviously-
roommates.
You have the moment where a
Yeah.
cop walks in.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happens to you when you're high on acid and a cop walks in?
I can tell you
a little
exactly.
panic. I mean, like I said, I was sitting on the couch, and me and Reno were just like, "We got to get out of here. Like, we
So
have
it's
to get
panic.
out of here."
It's like acid laced panic.
Yeah, we just pretended
What
we
is
were
that
we,
like?
we
It's
pretended
upsetting.
we were sleeping.
It's-
It was
yeah.
upsetting. that whole
Yeah, but they
instance
would never be able to know.
That's one of those things.
and they
that-
weren't.
right.
They,
That
I
you
mean,
were
they
high
shine
on
lights in our
acids.
face. I mean, it wasn't really. The curtains were closed. It wasn't dark, but it wasn't bright. It was
Right.
kind of dusk.
Well, so
But I was just kind of watching them, and I mean, that whole thing could have been 3 minutes. I mean,
Right,
it seemed
that's
like
what I was gonna
15,
say.
20, maybe an
Time
hours to
dilation.
me.
Seemed like an hour,
But
but
once we got out of there, even with everything, we went to the beach and then just we came back. We were like, all right, Jesus
that
Christ, what
particular-
the hell was
and
that?
it might have even been even better because
Yeah.
you felt like you were.
yeah.
Well, let me tell
No,
you,
it was
that
great.
particular acid was Pink Sunshine,
Yeah.
and that day, this is like 93 or
Yeah,
4
it
or
was
something.
93.
That day, Reno ate, you ate, I ate, McNeil ate, whatever. And it was
We'd all kinda separate and then find each
and
other
we saw
again.
Reno 24 hours later. We lost Reno
Yeah.
after that. We saw him 24 hours later. And he spent the night in like a closet, and he was still peaking.
Yeah.
it had been
It was
24
rough. It
hours,
was-
and
was-
he's like, "Dude, I can't. It's never going to stop." It's
That
never
was
gonna
the
stop."
most
We're like,
intense acid I've
ours
ever had in
kind
my
of
life.
stopped. Yeah,
What
it
was
was
it called? Pink. I
Pink
didn't even.
Sunshine.
Pink Sunshine.
I didn't even know there were names. I
Oh
thought,
yeah, Jesus Christ!
Chicken head, yeah,
everything.
Felix.
White blotter.
right. Felix the cat.
I mean, I've came very close. Like there was a guy when I was in college. I guess the guy that I was on the 8th floor. Maybe they were on the 9th. They were literally right above me, and I was in the room, and they, a bunch of them, and it was the middle of the day too. And there was this girl who had never done acid before, and they both like popped acid, and I was like, I wasn't around to see how it affected her because she had never done it before, and I would have loved to have seen it, but I didn't do it. I could be.
It's a
I could
weird-
be a bit of a chicken sometimes.
It's a weird thing. It's not about, I mean, and I, to each his own, but it's a weird thing when you're asking about like, what does that look like in real time? Because when you have a head full of psychedelics, I find things just pop up. Like, in other words, like in my head, I just look up and the cop's standing there and I'm like, whoa, like, I don't know about a knock. I don't know about upset, nothing. Just all of a sudden you're like, hey.
Well, because you're gone and you're like when I've done it, like you're
Right,
gone in your own
right.
head sometimes.
Yeah,
and
right.
You don't know where. Like we just did penis envy,
That's so funny.
which for me it seemed like it came in waves.
Right.
It was like a very like wavy thing. I'd be gone for a while and then you kind of come float back in. And you're
Most
like,
psilocybin,
Yeah.
it seems to be waves.
and you look
of
around and
stuff.
you're like you're sitting around the fire and it's a beautiful night and the air's great and you're like, oh wow, that was cool. And then all of a sudden you feel yourself start to slip back and then you gotta go away again and you
Right.
come back and it was delightful.
Yeah, a good psilocybin psychedelic experience, that seems to be the thing because
But that waving effect that will last for. I mean, we were up until probably 3 a.m. Like we were having such a blast. Like
Yeah.
we were
Right.
all laughing. We're all having a good time.
usually-
and then like you could tell like my buddy got quiet. And you're like, okay, he's kind of going off, but like he was fine. You could
Sure.
tell.
Yeah,
and
he'll
then
be back.
and then he'll comes back, and then the next thing you know, I'm like, dude, turn this song up, and my buddy's like, dude, it's 2 a.m. He's like, we can't there's neighbors. I was like, it's 2 and like it
right,
just,
time dilation.
yeah.
I love it. It's fucking incredible. It's all incredible stuff. Yeah, and the waves
Yeah, I
is
feel like
because
it's
of the
gotten-
poison. It's like
I'm kind of happy that we're going through like this new renaissance almost because alcohol has ruled this country for so long and they shove it down our throats. It's what
Yeah.
you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get back in the day. You're supposed to get kegs and you're supposed to
Right.
do beer
Well,
bongs
it's
and
funny,
do shots.
like,
And it's like,
I don't know where I heard this, but somebody, I don't know if it was just a post or something, but somebody was just talking about breweries, like are kind of closing left.
that bubbles burst
And it's
a little bit.
because the younger generation just isn't drinking.
I just
as
read
much.
I just
That's
saw an
interesting.
outline.
They're not
Good.
smoking cigarettes. I mean, younger kids aren't even really vaping. I mean, it's like I feel like the tobacco industry is going to be gone because nobody's smoking. I mean,
they're getting
all
smarter.
the older people that smoke are going to die. They're
Well,
just
your
going to be gone.
vices
But
are
the young
evolving.
people, like it's not like they're not going to come out with a cartoon. Like we had Joe Camel. We're like, fuck yeah,
Right.
Marlboro
Right.
Miles. We're like, I
Marlboro
need
Miles.
to smoke as many fucking cigarettes as I can
Think
so
about
I can
that,
get
though.
this
I mean,
Jeep.
How gross is that? That
Yeah.
they
Isn't
were
that
like,
crazy?
And we just thought it was normal. That
It was
like,
normal. Yeah, it was.
But when you see what these companies were doing, and then they were making like cigarettes like as addictive as they possibly
Dude,
could.
it was like what was it, 1 million Marlboro Miles for a Jeep?
Yeah, for years you
They
were like,
actually had a Jeep.
Yes,
I
yeah.
remember like a kayak. kayak. I remember that.
Well, the
They had all kinds
kayak
of
was
shit.
like 100,000
Yeah.
marble miles. Like you'd have people trading. Like you'd go rooting through trash. You're like, dude, there's marble miles on that cigarette box. Grab them.
Listen,
Like, it
public
was-
service announcement. The problem that the cigarette companies advertising, pushing addiction and stuff like that, that is happening right now with these gambling apps.
Wow.
Just so you know. The next big problem of the nation is going to be the gambling apps because they're pushing, they know who's bums who are impulse bettors,
Right.
and they're giving those people, hey, couple dollars here to place another bet. No, if you start winning, big money, they'll cut you off. The platforms will cut you off. They can algorithmically find who's impulse bettors and give them discounts.
I'm happy to
And in
say that
10
I will
years,
never be cut off.
I'm just
of a
telling you,
gambling app.
in 10
and
years
it's not
from
because
now,
I don't gamble. It's
Scott,
because
mark my
I
words.
never fucking win.
You don't win enough.
In 10
We'll never
years from
win
now,
God
the
damn it.
gambling platforms are going to need to be regulated because it is a drug, just like alcohol,
Yeah,
just
well,
like everything
yeah.
else.
No, that causes its own damage.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. People's mortgages, for every dollar that a
Yeah,
house
right.
bets, the same house loses $2. Think about that. All right, are you good?
Yeah, no, I have. I before we get to that, I do have one
Go.
question that I read. So, I know from what the story says, you like to talk about this. Why
I have no idea.
are you thanked in Rachel Ray's 1999 cookbook?
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have it. I still have it. It sits in my kitchen, and
Did you know that?
No.
it was like it's called. Well, she had the show 30-Minute Meals, and I don't know if it was a book before it was a show or a show, but I think it was a book first, maybe. It's a really funny. She's from up in the Albany area,
Okay.
so that's basically where that comes from. Is that she was just kind of figuring herself. She was so cute back in the day
man.
too.
Yeah,
And she's
So do you know? I mean, do you know her?
Not really.
Not really.
Like,
Enough to get thanked in her book, though.
well, yeah, because back then it was, so she was like just kind of getting her cooking thing going.
Right.
And I guess there was some sort of local telethon or something where they had to man the phones. And my morning show host, Sean, happened to sit at a phone next to Rachel because Rachel was just a local person at that point. She had been on a bunch of the news shows
Right.
doing those like cooking segments, and she was not the Rachel Ray we know now. And they kind of hit it off. So then she used to come on our morning show all the time, and she like I've had scrambled eggs made by Rachel Ray, and she
That's
would cook
awesome.
for us, and she would do stuff, and we formed a relationship with her. So it got to the point where, she started coming out with these books, and she thanked, us, Sean, Richie, and Scott for being so great to me, and blah, blah, blah. And then her star rose very quickly. And she had left the area and made it big. And that was basically it. It wasn't anything. There was no real, like, I don't know her.
But I'll
Dude,
say
you've
this:
eaten
eaten food cooked by her.
Yeah, that's
I'll,
awesome.
I'll say this, like I'll always say, now she seems like she's there's like this new, I don't know if it's a YouTube channel, I can't remember what it's called, but they're trying to bring some of these maybe chefs that aren't really doing stuff nowadays, and they're putting them back out there,
Like Mario Batali and all that kind of
and
shit.
she's one of them, and she looks like she's not in a good way.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen these videos.
Yeah.
She's like, it seems like she's, I don't know, she's got some substance issues, it seems like, and it's sad to say because she was the sweetest person I've ever met. And then when you would see her on TV, the way she was is the way she was, which she was a really nice, sweet, genuine person. But I mean, she became a freaking megastar.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
she-
yeah.
Like a megastar.
The early odds, she was cleaning up.
And that can,
We have her pans.
that can mess anybody up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you reach that level, and it seems like it's blessed her in a lot of ways, but I feel like it's also been a curse,
Right.
in some ways, because it seems like she's not. I don't know. I don't want to say anything. Watch the videos for yourself.
Sure.
Right.
But
Well, I haven't had a drink since '97, and like we respect drugs and alcohol, and we don't judge anybody.
yeah,
because
I just
it's,
it just seems like
you can be the
she's,
smartest person in the world. It's still that heroin will get you.
Dude, look at Mattis, dude. Like,
I know,
Brian
how about
Mattis,
that?
Like, that's
I know.
insane.
Well, he seemed like. Did you hear the note that he left or something?
I didn't. I don't know.
It was like
There's nothing left.
Yeah,
for me.
I had everything and now I have nothing.
That's
kind of thing.
sad.
But I mean, it's like. But that's the thing. People think they're like, oh, I mean, he's got a World Series ring. He should be fine.
Right. What's wrong with him?
I have
what's
that discussion.
What's the problem?
Well, we talk about that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, whatever, man. Especially like in Baltimore, a city where people can be, so gruff. They're like, whatever, man, dude's a millionaire.
But it goes back to what you're saying.
About?
There's still fucking people.
I go, okay, well, look at Chris Cornell. Like, you know, the guy. Like, money does not equal happiness.
Right.
Get that out of your brain. Get that out of your brain.
Right.
Like, money and success does not equal happiness. Happiness is in here. Trust me, I'm still kind of searching for it. You know what I mean? I've gotten better at it. I'm starting to be able to breathe a little and know that as life goes on, I'll probably be okay.
Sure.
I've worked at a radio station for 20 years. I've got a nice little nest egg. Hopefully, I'll be able to figure things out moving. Because with radio, it's so... the job security can be shit,
right?
And you don't know. And now here I am, like, okay, I've done it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not taking my foot off the gas just yet, but like, I can breathe a little bit. But just because it doesn't mean, you can have all the money in the world. Look at all these celebrities, man. They're fucked up. They're killing themselves. They're addicted to drugs. That doesn't.
Right.
Even Aaron Rodgers on that. What's that thing?
Ayahuasca.
Well, he's got that Prophet. It's called or something. That Netflix show. He even says it. He goes, "I thought when I won the Super Bowl, everything would be amazing." He's like, and then you wake up the next day and you go, "Oh shit!" Like I'm still like. All the things I thought that would happen, that I'd be eternally happy and amazing. It's like it that doesn't happen.
Yeah, all of King Midas's gold won't fix what's in you. You have to be cool with what's in you, or else you'll never find it. Yeah. And even if you think, like, even me, when I'm broke, which I am broke, usually I'm like, try me, give me $1 million. I bet you money I'll be happy. And I will for a day.
You want to see
for 2 days.
See if there's no money, no problems.
It's
but I mean, it can make
happiness.
life easier.
But that's not happiness.
But you're like, you want to find out. Like, let me see how I can.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Try me, please. Right.
I'd like to find out what problems come with more money.
Sure. It is an interesting conundrum. Scott, we like to wrap up the show by asking your top 3 favorite movies. We're movie cats around here, and I like to relate to people
cats,
through
you got
cinema.
a fish tattoo.
Yeah, I'm all over the place,
Well,
baby. I'm music, movies, and philosophy.
I mean, I have the Predator on my leg.
Yeah, I see all the Predator heads back
I've
here.
got Dr. Teeth,
He's
the
got
Electric
Dr. Teeth.
Mayhem, the Muppets.
For the record, Justin made fun of it.
I have ghetto tattoos, by the way.
Well, show him the other one and tell. Who do you think that is?
Who do I think that is?
I'll give you a hint.
Hold on. Let me look at the
Don't worry
context.
about
Is
it.
this
Go ahead.
attached to that?
No, well, sort of.
SDJ?
Yeah, sort of.
And then what is he holding?
The world.
That he's holding the world in his hand?
It's not a bowling ball.
Is that Kurt Cobain?
It's so funny.
I think
I've
Justin
gotten
said
that.
Did
I've gotten
Justin
it. My
say that?
sons used to be like,
Right.
"Is that Kurt Cobain?"
Wait, so it's someone famous.
It's supposed to be me.
It's him.
Oh, it's you.
Listen. Now, look,
Why would you get a tattoo of yourself?
listen. Great question. All good questions. We were wild.
We were wild.
Listen, this probably cost me $50.
Of course it
Right.
did.
Probably.
And the needles
Eastern
got
Avenue.
delivered to our apartment.
Oh, it was in an apartment.
The guy's
Even
name
Florida,
was
yeah.
Psycho.
Yeah.
And we didn't, like, his name was Justin.
I don't
right?
remember his actual name.
He was known as
I just called him
Psycho
Psycho.
down south and the Highlander up north.
Yeah.
And he was on the run, and he stayed with us, and I got this.
Did he have a portfolio where you're able to see some
no.
of his?
Nah.
Were you able to see some of his
I'll
past
tell you
work?
what.
His
I think
portfolio was selling meth.
I may have one of his best tattoos on my leg.
You
the
do.
Indians.
Yeah, he's got a great
He
Indian
did that.
tattoo.
He did it.
You
in-
too, huh?
He did. Yeah, he did it in about an hour, and I'll show it to you when
Let
he
me
did
see
it.
right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about getting another one, but I just don't know what to get. Like, you obviously don't give a shit.
Well, I do nowadays. Look, since
that's not bad.
did a freehand.
Damn.
look, so Scott,
Vinnie Myers did that.
Okay.
that freehand too.
so Scott, since I give a shit, I got that, and then the name of my granddaughter. That is done.
Now, why
now.
did you go with Run Like an Antelope?
Well, so couple things. One, I'm a drummer, and that line over the years, if you watch the show, you will, like, if you watch episode 1, you'll realize over the years we've done a lot of crazy shit. We've been in a lot of nutty situations, and over the years, there's many times where emotionally I was out of my mind on drugs, and when Antelope peaked, set the gear shift for the high gear of your soul,
run like
it
an
just
antelope out of control.
it would just make me. It just made the world right.
Yeah.
So when I wanted to get something, an ode to fish, I didn't want to get the fish logo. You know, as you point out, I don't quite give a shit. I wanted people to know Fishman drumming, so I wanted the logo.
Shout out Matt Presti did
right.
that, right?
No, Presti did the words.
Presti did the words.
Matt from Mattio Inc. did the coloring and stuff like that. But
do you have a favorite version of that?
Well, so yes. So here's the deal then.
Are you one of those guys? Do you guys know like the...
I don't know the stats.
November 7th,
Nah,
1996. That's the best Wolfman.
I'm actually proud to say I'm not like a fish snob. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how many shows I've been to.
Yeah.
I know it's been a lot, but
it's important to us emotionally. Statistically, it's not important.
I'm not a first song predictor.
Are you still both like deep in the game?
I'm pretty deep, man. We go once a year.
I've kind of moved on. Like, but do you listen to them on a regular basis?
No,
I do not.
But I will tell you
what
the reason.
What do you listen to now?
What I listen to, well,
because I've kind of moved on.
I'm a big fan of WTMD, that station, the local station.
Incredible.
I listen to, but I like, and even with the show, like I listen to a lot of local music, but
it's got lowercase blues.
Who I'm into right now is Orla Gartland. Her song "Little Chaos" hits home for me. It's
like TMD, you could put on and you can listen for an hour, and within that hour, you'll like Shazam 3 songs because you're like, "Whoa, what is that? Whoa, what is that? Whoa, what is that?" They play all this. Yeah, it's an incredible independent radio station.
Whiskey Feathers too. I mean, there's a lot of great artists around that are good fucking.
I listen to. I mean, there's nobody in particular I listen to. Right, I listen to a lot of stuff.
Right.
But
Fish
new?
usually isn't even in the mix that I listen to these days.
Scotty Mac Miller dropped a posthumous album.
I found Mac Miller on such a whim, and here's the thing: like I start to wonder. Like I'm 48 years old, right? And if I say I like Mac Miller, sometimes people are like, "Well, what?" And I'm like, what? Why does age have... I never understood...
Underrated.
But I never understood why like age has anything to do with it. Like, I'll never stop exploring music. I'll never stop listening to new music. I'll never stop listening to new artists. Mm-hmm. If there's an artist that's 23 years old and I'm a 50-year-old man, like, why can't I listen to that?
Right.
Like, and I found... Like, I was online and Mac Miller had died. And I remember even thinking, like, I was with my friend Celine, and she goes, "Oh, it's just another one of those rappers that overdosed on pills." It was when, like, all those rappers were dying. And then I was on social media and I followed John Mayer, and John Mayer had it was the cover of the album Swimming, and he did this like long post.
Yeah, man.
And I read it, and it was all about Mac Miller had asked him to play on one of the songs on Swimming. I can't remember what song it was, but it was, and I was a John Mayer. I respected John Mayer.
Yeah.
I respect his musicianship. He's like with the Grateful Dead now. I'm like, all right, this guy, he's a made man at this point. And he had this thing like, Mac Miller, gone too soon, what incredible talent, this, that, the other thing. I was, when he said, when there's certain moments of your career when someone asks you to be on a project,
right,
and they send you the demo and you hear it, and he goes, and upon hearing it, you immediately just go, yep. And he goes, that was Mac Miller. He goes, he sent me this thing, and it was an immediate yes. And I was like, John Mayer. Like talking about Mac Miller.
Right.
I go, what am I missing?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? So I bought the album Swimming, and I was like,
incredible.
And it, my mind split open. I'm like, holy crap, this guy's amazing. And then he came out with Circles.
Yeah.
Circles was posthumous. I think that was after he died.
Right.
And then I started to go backwards, and I was like, damn, even when he was like just graduating high school, like there was something there.
And he can play all instruments.
That's what I mean.
Like,
he plays the keyboards, he plays the
pretty
drums, he plays the bass.
He's like the only one. They released his Tiny Desk on vinyl.
Oh, I have it.
Yeah,
I have
he's
it
like
on
the
vinyl.
only Tiny Desk performer that they've released.
Well, I bring him up because last week my son Caleb, shout out Caleb. Caleb calls the show a lot. There's a guy named Caleb. Yeah. But Caleb is a huge Mac Miller fan. So last week he was like,
he just came out with Balloonerism.
Yeah.
Which I've spent a little bit of time with.
I haven't spent any time with it.
No. I'm just trying. I'm into like a big post-punk phase right now. There's a band called Idols. I don't know if you've heard of Idols.
Idols, no.
Oh, dude.
Noga Erez.
Noga?
Erez. Do you know her?
No.
She's fantastic. She's got a new album out. I think the album's called The Vandalist. The Vandalist is a fucking great song. She's fucking awesome. Like, there's beats, she raps, she sings.
Is she local?
Oh, well, there's
No, she's not local, but she's like, he was asking who I'm into right now.
Gotcha.
Her album came out like not that long, a couple months ago, but I've listened to it over and over. It's one of those albums I can go all the way through.
What do you think of King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard?
So I haven't gone so deep down the rabbit hole, but I love them, and they have what, like, they have an abnormal amount of albums.
They're great. They're prog. They're like more prog rock.
I was just they did a thing. TMD was talking about them a couple weeks ago. Tyler was. One year they put out 5 albums.
Yeah,
in one year.
It's hard to keep up. It's hard to digest.
They have like 24 albums out.
Like
they've
Zappa
only been around for
Australia.
Well, a lot of Fish fans are jumping on that.
Yeah, I like them.
It's hard. They're very prolific, so it's hard to acquaint yourself with them,
right?
And they're progressive, yes, but they also are progressive in a way that they put out an album and like it'll almost be like a completely different genre each album. They tackle like different genres, but they're so good. So I made a playlist of, like you said, they have like 24 albums.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me figure out what these guys. So I made let me see this playlist. It has.
Yeah, you ought to send me that.
Yeah,
because
again, it has 75 songs on it, and it's 6.5 hours long.
Yeah.
Because I went through each of the album, and I found like the 4 or 5 highlighted songs, and I just put them all on one playlist.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I've just been listening to it, and it's pretty. They're pretty good, man. There's some good stuff there. I don't know. Everyone wants every band to be the next.
Right, sure.
They're the next. And it's like, let them just be what they are.
Yeah, right.
We
grew up, I mean, musically too, in a very cool generation. I mean, even before us, but like when we were talking about Appetite for Destruction, like, you're never gonna experience something like that again with new music. Like, you'll put something on and be like, this is fantastic, this is blowing my mind. But just back then, like, listening to Appetite for Destruction,
it's got to be right place,
Sweet Child of Mine for the first time. You're like, what is this?
And when you're younger, that right place, right time, it's more inclined to happen when you're young and impressionable and haven't heard a lot of stuff. I mean, there's certain things, like there was an album. God, it was years ago, man. This was probably like I started to get into like jazz a little bit, like that. Like back when Fish was big, Medeski, Martin, and Wood started to get big. So I started to listen to Medeski, Martin, and Wood, and then I started to listen to like Soul Live, and then I started to listen to
Soul Live. I forgot about
some of these other like 3-piece jazz bands that were kind of trippy. And then Medeski, Martin, and Wood did an album with John Scofield called A Go-Go.
Yes.
And I was like, that album, I was like, yo, this is
John Scofield's
like something
different.
Dude,
he does Keystone Corner. Like, he plays at Keystone Corner.
Here? Like right now? Yeah, I've heard about like Keystone
downtown.
Corner. Somebody told
it's
me
in
that.
Baltimore. It's a jazz club.
It's down in Harbor.
Did you tell me
East.
that? Someone told me that, like, Schofield like just played. No, Medeski, Martin, and Wood just played there.
They've played there, but Schofield plays there too, it's
a national jazz acts. Go to
I'm just starting to realize that. I got to start.
Dennis Chambers does
schedule.
like a residency there.
Yeah, we want Chambers in here.
We're gonna get Dennis Chambers in
So
here.
Scott, movie wise, do you got any? I mean, it doesn't have to be your be all end all, but if you can think of 3 movies that if you were on a desert island or something, you
desert
would
island.
Want
it could
with
be
you.
movies you've seen the most, or it could be like just a go-to thing. Like, you're like, man, I'm in a mood.
Well,
I'm gonna watch.
Let me do this first, because trying to be better rounded as a person. I know Justin's a huge movie fan.
Yeah.
So I said I'm going to just start to watch movies. I was never really a big movie person, but I've started to watch movies. This is the list of all the movies I've seen over the last
oh shit, Scott.
year. Yeah, I'm going in.
Yeah, you ought to let me recommend
I have no
couple.
life. So standouts from like the last year.
We can do that.
Well, no, I'll do that first, just because I have the list here.
Oh, you can.
I watch a lot of the A24 films. Do you watch them?
Incredible.
Like the indie horror films?
Oh my God, Midsommar.
Yeah,
Hereditary.
Midsommar's on here. Barbarian, X, Hereditary. Those are all incredible.
So I have an anxiety issue.
You can't do it?
I don't know. I'm afraid to. Like, he had me watch, what did I watch? Insidious. And it ended up being a letdown certain way. I liked the movie, but it wasn't scary to me. But like Midsommar, I've heard Barbarian,
Strange Darling was
you
great.
Said that's going to stress me out.
Long Legs with
I haven't seen that yet. Did you see that?
I did not see that yet.
The one I really liked that I just saw
into it.
was The Substance with Demi Moore.
Oh, I do want to watch that. I've heard it was great.
I heard that was outstanding.
It's like I didn't know what to expect, and I'm like, this movie is. And it was funny because Bill Burr was just talking about it. And Bill Burr's a big.
I still don't really know what
he's
to
a big movie guy, and I thought the same thing. Like the way it the cinematically, it's almost like Kubrick-esque, and like the there's this one hallway that like she's like a celebrity that does like a fitness show or something, and there's this hallway that she walks to like get to the dressing room to
like
the studio.
The same
or whatever.
carpet, right?
Yeah,
from the hotel.
Yeah, the carpeting. It's like even the hallway itself is
the way
like
they shoot it.
Oh, it's like it's so.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm dying to see. I mean,
Watch
she won
that.
a Golden Globe for that.
True
shit.
Romance. I love True Romance.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a first.
love,
Nobody said that yet.
I love True Romance.
God, I love Gary Oldman.
Gary, like that scene between.
I read about him. Like he showed up to set like that. Like they did.
Drexel, was that his character's name?
Yeah, that was him. Like they weren't like you're gonna have dreads. You're gonna do that. Like apparently
he came up with all.
He made that choice
and showed up on set. They were like,
it worked. It worked.
Let's do it.
That's so fucking.
You got a woman on that.
Right.
You got a woman on TV with her breasts is out. You hadn't even looked once.
Right.
Like
so
that
the Chinese food. He had.
We got a motherfucking Charlie Bronson. Oh,
Yeah,
dude,
I love that
well,
scene.
the scene
Shaking
between
me.
Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken in the trailer,
unbelievable.
where the Moors and Sicilians, like, that's like one of the greatest.
Yeah.
Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, Alabama Whirly, the cocaine,
the soundtrack, it's
Bronson
all
Pinchot,
fucking-
the Hans Zimmer did the soundtrack. That movie's incredible. Back in the day, I really like Train Spotting. That was a really good movie.
One of the greats.
I had a weird. God damn it! What did I watch? We watched The Grand,
what a
Grand,
great movie.
and I fell asleep. No, I watched Spinal Tap like a couple weeks ago, and it was Amanda might have been out of town. I fell asleep like during at the very end of Spinal Tap and woke up, like started having weird fucking dreams and woke up and Train Spotting was on, which is why I was having weird fucking dreams.
Oh, it was like getting subconsciously
I woke
getting
up.
in your,
I was like, "What is?" I opened my eyes and it was
the baby scene, like the toilet scene.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's addiction.
Now,
I never saw two.
But I know it was a book, and I've never read the book.
Right.
I don't. Maybe I'll.
Did you see the sequel yet?
I have.
think I've seen the sequel.
I
haven't
own
seen
the sequel.
Is it good?
It is good.
Yeah.
It's not. It's
As
not
good,
the first
but
one,
it's good.
but it's a really good, responsible wrap up. It was good. It was
Robert
good.
Carlyle was on a roll back.
He's
then.
on. He's in part two.
Ravenous,
Begbie's in
dude.
part two.
Ravenous.
I liked 28 Days Later when that came out. I thought that was brilliant.
Right,
It was like a
groundbreaking.
zombie movie, but it was like beautiful and like scary and dark and weird.
And the stakes were higher.
That's another
because they
movie
were
that's
running
impossible
and
to watch
shit.
unless you own it because it's not on any
is it
streaming
not?
platform.
And the
None.
zombies were
Zero.
like fast and like scary. Big Fish was a good. That was. I think that was what's his face.
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton,
Incredible film.
Ewan McGregor.
Incredible
That's one of my favorite. That movie,
Like I cry every time.
I fall
Every
apart
time.
at the end.
Yes, every time.
No matter what I do or how I try to hold it in, like
Yeah. It's just.
I just fall apart.
It's a
That's one of my favorite
beautiful-
movies of
it's
all
a
time.
beautiful,
100%.
real-
Yeah.
but it's way
Well, it's
fantasy.
Just when he
funny,
finds out
it's
that everything
just
he was talking
one
about is
real.
true.
When they
Yeah.
all
Real.
show up at the funeral,
Yep.
you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's incredible,
Yeah.
dude.
He thought his
Beautiful
dad
movie.
was just this like
Full of shit.
foolish,
Just storyteller. Yeah.
Yep.
Just this last year, Saltburn was a good one.
I heard
Did you
that was
see
dynamite.
that? That was a good one.
I heard that was intense, like just
It's
weirdly
just
intense.
it's got a cool vibe to it. There's like 4 or 5 scenes that are like pretty
Crazy.
great.
Right.
Like,
Oh, okay.
They're pretty like
Saltburn.
they're just it's about
there's so
this
many
like,
movies.
yeah, I know, and I just was never good with movies. I don't know if it was my attention
It's
span.
like a big
or-
house in the English countryside that people hang
It's a
at
super
or something,
well now
or-
it's like this rich kid meets like this quote unquote supposedly like poor kid,
Yeah.
and invites him back to his. They're almost like royalty, I think,
Right.
and like they live in this castle, and they are just so detached from reality. And this, poor kid gets like a glimpse into that world and like doesn't want to have to leave that world and will do whatever it takes to stay in that world. And that world is when you have, speaking of like more money, more problems,
Right.
like when you just have all the money in the world, like things get weird.
Excesses get weird.
And the stuff they're into is weird, and the stuff that happens weird. It's awesome.
I can't wait. I want to see that shit. Yeah, historically, that kind of stuff, like when there's a lot of money and a group of people in one area and they have power and money.
And drugs
and
no alcohol,
no
and
shackles,
power, and no consequences. And it's there's like 3 or 4 scenes where you're like, yo, that's awesome. The bathtub scene is awesome.
Like I won't. I guess I can't. I'm not going to say who, but I do like AV work during the day. That's my day job, and I'd go to a house in DC that is owned by a fucking billionaire,
right?
And like, but he's never there, and I'm like thankful for that, because I'm like, if shit goes down, like, if he's here, I don't want to be here, because that's when shit's gonna go down, and I'm gonna be the asshole that just gets shot. Like, it's like they just see me, I'm like, they just
they'll
fucking
shoot you, and then they'll pretend
like I'm
to
just
be
fucking,
the AV guy.
I'm fixing the smoke detector, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They'll just take my clothes.
Right,
like I'm
they'll
like,
kill you and be like,
if he's ever there, like I don't want to be there.
Right. Well, that's a good list. I mean, that's a good couple movies. It's fucking good
just like back in the day, I was obviously like Adam Sandler was incredible.
Right.
Those are like goofy comedies, but
Are you a sci-fi nerd? Are you like Star Wars fan?
No.
Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter.
Lord of the Rings, I'm into. I saw all 3 of those in the theaters, and it blew my freaking mind.
they're series deep.
And I was never. I'm not like that kind. My brother is like a Star Trek, Star Wars, all that. But like for whatever reason, Lord of the Rings. I was living in Albany, and I remember they came out like Christmas time, a year spaced out, a year apart, and they were each 3 hours long.
Yes.
Like I went to every single one, and I was like blown away.
Yeah,
I
so
freaking loved it.
They
It
were
was one of
incredible.
those ones where it was like 3 hours, but it was like it did not feel like 3 hours
it was so
because you get so
epic.
lost in it that you're like, oh my god, it was just so good.
And it was something to look forward to. You knew each one was going to be quality and good, and
the
it was
orcs,
good shit.
like and it was a lot of. Was it a lot of practical effects? I think it was.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
like those were like real
wide
people.
shots of the armies were CG, but like when there were close-up shots and like the Battle of Helm's Deep was a lot of extras.
Extras.
But like Minas Tirith, like when they showed those, I mean, obviously that CG, they didn't have fucking actors, but they had a lot.
And
like
the incorporation of, my God.
Yeah. Like what were the dudes on the horses?
The ring wraiths. They were like the human king like spirits. But one of my favorite characters, which is in it for like in the movie, I think he's in the book more, is the mouth like of Sauron.
Oh yeah, right.
When he comes out, that dude that comes out and like throws Frodo's
So you've read
vest.
the books? You've done all
I
that?
haven't read the books.
My wife,
But I
has read
think
all of them.
I think he's bigger in the books because he's the mouth of Sauron. Like he's the one who sends out, who commands everybody.
Like another great thing that I'm not a big fan of, but like the Harry Potters, like they did a really great job.
I just rewatched those fucking. Let me tell you something.
Great movies.
The last 3 movies, the stakes are high as shit. Like it's not a child's.
That's what
movie,
I keep telling my family, because my
dark,
kids and Amanda hasn't seen them. I'm like, you got to get through the first one, because they were like 8 years old when they made it. It's kids, but it's still like intense. But by the time you get to the 7th book, it's insane.
Are they long movies?
220, 210.
Because I feel like in order to make a book into a movie,
that was the complaint.
And
there was
do
one,
it justice. You have to.
There was
it has
one
to be a long
book.
movie.
I mean, like the Order of the Phoenix might have been the longest book, and they had to leave a lot out because the movie's too short. That was the only disappointing film. If you read the books, if you didn't read the books, then it would have flowed. Yeah,
the book is so fruitful.
But I think
There's
all
so
the
much
other
in it.
books were pretty spot on. Like, and then they like the last book they broke into 2 movies. So technically, the last book's like over 5 hours long because it's 2 movies.
Right, and that's if you're going to do it right. But that's how you have to do it. Like I remember I read a book, and it was a fat book. I was working in Albany, and our midday guy, our music director, Bill Early. He would read books, and he came into me, one day, and he goes, "Here," slaps into my stomach. He goes, "Read this; it's fantastic." And I was like, kind of getting into reading. I'm the biggest reader I've ever been, but like back then, it was like, and it was a fat book. It was called Mystic River, and they made it into a movie.
Yeah. Right.
And it was, I think, Kevin Bacon might have been in it.
Yeah. Kevin Bacon and Sean Penn.
Sean Penn.
Eastwood directed.
Yeah.
And it was like this gritty Boston neighborhood, and this redheaded girl like winds up dead or something like that. Right. And I read the book, and the book was freaking incredible.
Right.
And then I watched the movie, and I was like, it was the biggest piece of crap because, like, let's say the first quarter of that book, maybe a third of that book is kind of just like easing you into it. Like, it was a slow burn. Like, they're setting up, they would spend like a chapter just talking about the neighborhood and
the
then
little details.
Then they would spend like a whole chapter talking about this dude that hung on the corner, and it was like, it was so lush. And then the first 20 minutes of the movie, they just breeze through all that.
Yes.
And you're like, what? You're like, what?
Right. My dad was always somebody, if he read the book, he wouldn't see the movie.
Well, so
No,
what
it was terrible.
Do
Do you remember Da Vinci Code?
Yeah.
The Da Vinci Code, when all those books got really, really big. I loved all those books. And then they came out with those Tom Hanks movies. Oh, they were freaking awful. Right.
So listen, the rule of thumb is that one page of script is 1 minute of film time. Yeah. So if you think about that, when you're adapting a 500-page book,
well, the perfect example is The Hobbit. The Hobbit's 89 pages, and it's 9 hours of film.
Right. It's like so when they're adapting a book, 1 page is 1 minute.
So if a book is 300 pages, the movie would need to be 300 minutes.
Well, that's the thing, is that they won't do that.
But that's also 300, that would be 5 hours.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, in order to get all that detail in, and plus, like you're saying, it's always detail that you build in your mind.
Of course. And
it
never looks the same.
It never looks the way you
It
picture it. It's all subjective. So this kind of phenomenon will never be truly fixed. Even if
not me.
Wasn't me. It's
no,
weird.
but I'll say this: Justin, just like his favorite book is The Road. Cormac McCarthy's The Road. I just read that, and then
that's a movie, right?
Yes.
With Viggo.
Yeah, and
Viggo Mortensen.
And then I went back and I watched the trailer, and I was like, you know what? That's kind of what I had in my head.
Well,
and
let me tell you this:
nailed it.
Peter Jackson directed The Road, and he's the guy that made Lord of the Rings.
Is that with Viggo Mortensen?
Yes.
The Road.
Yep.
I didn't know Peter Jackson did that.
Oh yeah, baby.
Well, it's funny. Even The Walking Dead. Like, even if you read the comics, like I did not read the comics, but I own a lot of them. Mm-hmm. But the story is very different between the comics and the show.
Right. Yeah. Scott, I've been like you asked about our music influences recently. I'm periphery listening to music. I play music all the time. I'm in an original band, Gravediggers Biscuits.
You got to make a point to see those guys.
We're going to be making an album here in February.
Wait, what?
But
what is Making Waves?
That's my 80s, 90s
How
cover
was that
band.
show? I didn't go to it. How was it? At McAvoy's.
It was good. We had
it was a big
You know what I did? I booked an oil change because I'm old now.
Right.
So on Saturday morning, I try to be the first guy in line at the dealership for an oil change.
Because you could wait a long time at a dealership.
I got up.
Is it Jones?
Yeah, it's Jones. But I got up there at 6. I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning and was there by 7, and I still wasn't the first person in line.
No,
I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's like waiting for tickets back in the day.
I was like, how am I not first? I was second. I got in there, but I didn't go out that night.
They're
was
a great
good?
band, yes.
Yeah.
They're always great. They never let down. They never
it was a phenomenal night.
Yeah.
I said it was a phenomenal band.
We went to 2 shows that
How were the
night.
Parkville ladies? Out in force?
Out in force.
Oh, they
come out for Christian and
McAvoy's
Jim.
has
they
wonderful
love
people watching. Wonderful people
I
watching.
knew
Me and my wife we went to
clientele.
a show at the Pistachio Gallery earlier, which was interesting. It's like that place is
what is the Pistachio?
So it's in Hamden, like in the back. It's like actually right down the street from you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's right up. So like where Union is down the hill. If you go up Union, like you're leaving, and there's the bridge. You either go right over the bridge or you go left. There's a gigantic white warehouse.
Yeah,
that inside of there is an art gallery, a T-shirt screen printing place, 3 recording studios.
You know what? Because when I leave the station, I see people sitting outside, like smoking cigarettes. It might be them.
There's 3 recording studios in there. The Pistachio Gallery screen printing shop, and Lauren Ruth Ward, who's a girl I'm a huge fan of. She's a Baltimore girl, but lives in L.A. for the last 10 years. But she's a musician. She came back to Baltimore and did a show, and one of our guests, Madison Bailey, opened up for
Incredible
her. Like
songwriter.
I sent her like all Madison stuff because she was looking for like a solo singer-songwriter to open, and she like watched it, and she's like,
oh, cool.
She's in. And
So you were saying that was before you went to Making Waves.
Oh, yeah. We went to that great show and then busted a move up to McAvoy's to City End. My point was just by the time we got there, because we had some beers. Like Peabody Heights I was drinking. My wife doesn't, she usually goes dry from January. She doesn't do dry January. She goes dry from January 1st to opening day. That's been
I
got a buddy that does that. She does a pretty good job doing it. She's going to Charleston next weekend, so she'll probably have some drinks.
Right. Well,
but no, getting to McAvoy's said for the second set was awesome.
Well, what I was going to say is that I don't listen to much music lately because I got all this shit going on, but I listen to books. And since 2012, I've listened to a lot of books. Yeah. And I've read a couple physical books when I can, but I find listening, because my job is driving a lot, and so it's like all I do is drive and listen to books. So I know you're on a book kick. If you need recommendations, let me know.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Because all I do is consume that kind of shit.
Yeah, I think I read a book in a week a couple of weeks ago.
Do you listen or do you?
No,
I'm a physical reader.
Yeah.
Yep. And I was like, that's like, I've always been a slow reader, and I remember, dude, I have vivid memories of being like in elementary school, and there was this girl, Allison Franco, and they would have like quiet reading time, and she would read so fast.
I hated that shit.
And I was like, how does she read that fast? So then I tried to like read fast. But in doing so, I almost made myself read slower because I was trying to like
comprehend.
I was just trying to move my eyes real fast and read real fast, and I became like a bad reader. So I like finally like slow down, like just read.
Right.
And by reading slower, you almost read faster, if that makes sense.
Do you read everything? Like, I mean, fiction,
nonfiction?
Everything?
Yeah, I mean, I was, for a while, I did, like, what are they called? Biographies. Right. Maybe I was reading about people.
Yeah. Well, the book, Sapiens, that's the book you had me read. God. That's a good one. Yeah, it's just about human evolution.
The history of mankind.
The history of mankind. It's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not a difficult read.
I don't know how I find my books. Like, I just go with like recommendations, and then I'll maybe read an excerpt. And like right now, I'm reading what is it called? Post Office. Have you heard of Post Office? It's like it's this guy who was a mailman,
right?
And he was like a drunk, and he was a gambler, or like a womanizer, and he just wrote this book about his time working at the post office, and it's incredible.
And it's a true story?
It's a true story.
Nice.
And like within the first page, he like...
That would be his time working at the post office.
Yeah.
That would be a true story.
Yeah. Well, it might be like if it's a made-up story. Yeah, like John Wick.
He's like a deadbeat. Like he's a drunk. He's hungover every day. He's at the racetrack. He's delivering mail, and he's banging chicks. Like it's debauchery.
Right.
Like,
that sounds cool.
Yeah, it's pretty...
Did you say you have read Lord of the Rings? Or
no.
I don't think I'm good enough of a reader to read that book. Do you know anything about reading it, how it goes?
Because it's like the Bible.
Because there's the Elvish, the language you made up, and they just all of a sudden go in tangents talking about the history of a character, like in the middle of the book. Like you don't need to flumble through to find a glossary. Like it just goes off and goes into whole backstories and stuff. Apparently, it's insane.
I'm not an advanced reader. I just, I don't know. I'm just getting in bed earlier these days. I'm just trying to put the phone down.
It's important. It's good stuff.
You can sit on Instagram for hours, and it's like, what the hell?
Yes, you can.
And it's like, I'd rather, I don't know, just read something for an hour.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, I mean, do you got anything else?
Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to, it was earlier. It was just about, I know you're Italian, grew up in New York.
Yep.
Can you cook?
Yeah.
So what do you got? Like, what's your Italian? Do you have, is Italian your specialty?
What I've been doing lately, I just like to have it on hand at all times. My daughter has fallen in love with it. Like, obviously, sausage and peppers is a big Italian dish.
Right.
I don't maybe always do the sausage, but I will go to the supermarket and I'll buy like a couple of red peppers, a couple of yellow, a couple of orange, a couple of green, some onions, fresh garlic, and I just cook up some peppers and onions.
Right.
Maybe not with the sausage, but like. It's just like once you let those cook for a while and the sweetness comes out of them and the onions and the garlic, it's like my daughter just can't get enough of it at this point. She's like, Dad, can you make peppers and onions?
Right.
And it's just like I grew up, classic eating peppers and onions, sausage and peppers. And it's just great to have. Like you can just have it with chicken. You can have it with steak. You can have it like with anything. It's almost like a like fajitas. You know, when they bring you fajitas, they bring you the peppers and onions.
Here
it's
comes
kind of,
fajita.
Yeah, it's kind of universal.
Right.
I mean, but it's like it's just so easy to make. It's so good.
My mother's sauce. My mother's sauce and her meatballs, nothing compares to. But my mother, this has always been like controversial. What I found out it's up for debate. Is she's ever since I was born, and it's a Sicilian thing apparently. Is she puts, I mean, there's meatballs, there's Italian sausage in her sauce, and hard-boiled eggs in her sauce.
Wow.
Wait, what do you mean? Like,
just she makes hard-boiled eggs and she drops them in a sauce.
Like
so when you're scoop whole, yeah.
So you'll like as you're scooping out a meatball, you can also scoop out an egg
and a whole Italian sausage, and you
I've
just
never
cut
heard
it
of
up
that.
on the
What about braciole? Did she put some braciole in there?
No, just the hard-boiled eggs. And apparently she'll die on that hill. It's a Sicilian thing.
Right.
People are like,
I believe her.
Why would you do that? Like it's good because
it probably came from
the
back
egg
in the
absorbs
the
the sauce a little bit,
and also
it's
you just
it's
use
so
whatever you have,
and it's hearty. Yeah, if you have an egg, it's hearty.
The only sauce that I've even that's comparable to my mother's is Owen Stalter's mother's sauce.
Oh,
and meatballs.
Well, no, my mom is she's off the boat, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, almost everyone knows that at this point. But
your mother,
yeah, Rita, she calls the show, or they call her all the time.
mean, that was
my mother's parents they came in on Ellis Island. Yeah.
Well, yeah, my grandfather, my grandmother, my Uncle Nick, my Aunt Angie, and my mom all came over. I think my mom was 6 or 7. My Aunt Angie was probably 8 or 9. My Uncle Nick is he older? I don't know what he is, but so that's just how I grew up. But yeah, sauce. I mean, every time my mom comes to visit here, she'll just end up in the kitchen. The entire
my
time.
Mother does that.
That's what it is.
Sure enough, she'll find the biggest pot I have and it'll make me a big pot of sauce because sauce freezes very well.
Yes, it does.
So she'll make me a big pot of sauce, meatballs, sausage, maybe some braciole, and I probably have some in the freezer right now, but I really need to nail down her. I mean, it's not rocket science, right? A lot of it's just time. You have to let it cook
and taste
all day, right? And that gets rid of the acidity. It can become sweet, but there's obviously she has little tricks, but it's incredible sauce.
Yeah,
and it's gravy. I mean, it's sauce, not gravy. If anyone calls it gravy, you're a moron.
right.
But I don't do a big Sunday sauce. I should probably start doing that.
I've gotten my mother's sauce down once.
Yeah,
one time.
And it tastes good.
There's no ingredient. Yeah, I've matched it once to my specifications, but I haven't been able to do it since.
Yeah,
because she can't give me ingredients. Like she gives me ingredients, but I'm like, okay, how much? And she's like
a punch.
Yeah,
it's did I say pinch?
Right.
Punch.
Right.
Like growing up, my grandfather would make me. It was called white beans and escarole, and it was escarole's like a green, and it's just white beans and escarole, and it was like the greatest thing I've ever tasted.
I've never heard of that.
No,
and then that was the thing. So then I would go to where did I go? There was like a few restaurants around here that had it on the menu, and I was like, you don't see that like ever.
Yeah, I was saying I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's incredible. He would make spaghetti pie. That was incredible. Fresh pastries from the bakery. Like my grandfather, like his cousin owned or ran the bakery, so he had like free run of the place.
Right, that's good shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like to, I've been cooking a lot more recently too. Like when I got divorced, I went out a lot. I was like, I didn't want to be in the house. I wanted to be out and about. Then you eat and you drink, you get fat. Like I've gotten fat. So it's like I'm trying to just cook at home now, eat at home. I know what's in it. I know my daughter loves it. You know, we kind of cook together. It's kind of a group, a bonding thing.
Right.
And it's just, I have the green egg, so I'm usually out messing around with that, doing some stuff with that. It's just great.
My problem, I'm a recipe follower, or I just have to know what I'm doing. My wife can just pull random shit out of the fridge and make a fucking meal.
That's what I did this past. I did a random shit.
I can't do that.
Weekend.
I guess I can, but
once you know the basics,
I don't feel confident.
Like this week, I had some chicken breasts that I defrosted. I needed to cook them, right? And I'm like, what do I do? Then I also had some tomatoes that I needed to use because they were starting to like get wrinkly. I'm like, gosh. So I had onions and garlic, right? You start there.
Yeah.
Onions, garlic, salt, pepper, olive oil. That's your base. Cut up the tomatoes, put the tomatoes in there. Then I had some like carrot sticks. They were starting to get, like a little bit
rubbery
or whatever. Right. Yeah, so I cut up the carrots. I threw the carrots in there. So then you got onions, garlic, salt, pepper, olive oil, tomatoes, carrots. Then I took the chicken breasts. I cut them up into chunks. I browned those off, threw those together. Then I had some frozen peas. I'm like, all right, I'll finish it off with some frozen peas. I had some rice that I had made in the rice cooker that was still there. I sprinkled a little bit of rice in there. So then by the time you're done, you got your protein, you got some nice chicken, you got the sweetness of the tomatoes and the carrots, the onions, the garlic, the peas, a little bit of rice for a little bit of starch.
What is what my wife does.
Yeah, and then by the end of it, you're like, this tastes freaking incredible.
Sounded easy.
You just look and you see what you have, and then you just go. You just work from there.
It's a isn't there like cooking shows based on that?
Yeah. People do it all the time, baby. You can do it. It's
called
I
cooking.
believe in you.
You don't need a recipe. If you know the basics.
Yeah, we have a friend of ours. We went to high school with her. Her and her husband have not a dispensary. They provide a reefer company up in Connecticut, Massachusetts. They're up in the Northeast,
yeah.
But
they grow it. You mean?
Yeah. He's a first generation grower, so he started. It's called Bada Bloom.
Right.
But they're doing it's probably done now. It's not out yet, but they're doing a baking show called Baking Bad, where you bake with THC.
Well, there was that show Bong Appetit. Did you ever see that?
Yes, right. Yeah. Same kind of vibe.
This is Baking Bad, and they're like they're on the show. They're judges, I think, and
they produce it.
Vincent Pastore is the host
from Sopranos.
Nice.
Where can you see it? Is it
I don't think it's
YouTube
out yet.
Thing,
we're finding out. She sent me all the information about what actually I never
them in the studio.
To her. I'm kind of an asshole. Sorry, Tara.
So I don't think it's out
yet,
but it's coming out.
It's coming out. They're I think they're still filming the episodes.
Right, Baking
Bad. Baking Bad.
Yeah,
because there was
that show Bong Appetit was.
Yeah.
It was like they would make high end meals.
Right,
it would be like really good food, but like they would put a few drops of THC and this and that and the other thing.
God,
and I don't know how stoned the people,
well, it's a weird thing that has something to do with the heat, like because you can cook, you can fuck it up. Like you can, if you cook it too hard, too long, too short.
No, one of my buddies, we were on
work.
a bachelor party and he was making brownies, which ended up being the most disastrous good. But like I went over and I think I stirred like the butter, and he was like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Dude, you gotta leave that." And these ended up being the most potent brown. Like it borderline ruined because we were going fishing, like trout fishing, and like we ended up watching movies that day because we were so fucked up we couldn't function.
And that's the other thing I like about nowadays with weed being legal is that you can kind of find your dosage.
Yeah, I get the same thing over and over again. We get the same thing, and the problem is now it's like it's sold out all the time, so we know it's
right.
Good.
You know what
Everybody
you like. You know what the dose is.
But
like you said, like back in the day, if a buddy would make brownies or cookies, you had no idea.
Or the witch at the fish
It was a
show.
roll of the dice.
I mean, I don't even. I think. I mean, I didn't eat a big piece, and I was lethargic. I wasn't like depressed, but I was like, I'm too high to function. Like I don't want to go. I'm not going fishing.
Right.
Yeah,
it's like the witch at the fish show.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what it was, but
that's your problem with the pockets.
Epic.
Like you don't know where there's fucking psilocybin.
Well, at Camp Oswego, we bought cookies and we ate a cookie, and we were so high we couldn't find our tent.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It
like
gets
me
out
and
of
my
hand.
buddy we laid down in the grass and we're sleeping in this ditch tonight because it was an old Air Force base.
Yeah,
so it was gigantic. Like an runway is a mile long, I think. And then the freaking place is huge.
Right.
It's nighttime. You're high on this cookie.
Right.
You've been up all day. Like we literally resigned ourselves to the fact that like we are not fine. But eventually, I think what had happened was someone had like a flag up or like a balloon.
Right.
And I saw that. I'm like, wait, I remember that balloon.
That'll get us closer.
It was a landmark or something.
And then we eventually found our way back. But like I thought I was going to sleep in a ditch. I was like, I'm so high. I can't find our tent.
Yeah, it was a blast.
That's such wonderful shit. I'm going to close with one quick thing about today's show. I wanted to mention Ari Shafir. Tell Spiegel, Ari Shafir was a Hasidic Jew who lived in Jerusalem and Israel for years and was going to be like, that was going to be his life.
His life, yeah.
And at some point, like in 99 or 2000, he just had something happen where he lost his religion and he moved to LA and became a doorman at the Comedy Store.
I remember I was reading about him. Yeah, he was the doorman. I remember that. And he started like
But it's like he was all in. And so he did a special last year called Jews or something about, and it was on YouTube, and It was an indictment, but also a love letter, I think, to Judaism. And I think he has said since that, I actually didn't watch this special, but I just know that the special last year he did was all about Judaism and his experience with it. So just make sure, because I heard Spiegel being like, he's from my neighborhood or whatever, but I'm pretty sure he ended up walking the walk for a while.
Well, two things you should watch just that are out right now was Howie Mandel just had him on, and Howie says like, hey, what do you think of like all the anti-Semitism going on nowadays? And Ari Shaffir's like, I'm out there, I don't see it. He's like, I think you live in a bubble. You're Howie, you're obviously Jewish, but like you live in a bubble, you're super rich, you're on your phone.
Right.
They're sending you the things that are going into your eyeballs and in your brains is what they want.
Sure.
Is what they want you to see. And I think it's exaggerated in your own mind as to what's really going on out there.
Sure.
So if you get out into the world, like we can walk around, we're fine.
In America, you're fine.
Well, it's like stories, like what stories you read online. It's like this celebrity said this, so they're facing backlash. 5 people probably said
backlash?
It. That's
right.
the backlash.
What is backlash?
And then you can make a
5
headline.
people. It's not half the country is like complaining. 5 people.
Well, it's like
Twitter.
Twitter exploded, and it's like, okay, well, is Twitter? What is that? 10,000 people?
Right.
Like, what is a Twitter explosion? What is that? What constitutes a Twitter explosion?
Sure.
Right.
It's not 20 million people.
No.
It's a handful.
Right.
Of
Out of
people.
350 million Americans, it's like 0.2% are all of the
and
tweets.
Generally in the article, like when you look at the article, it's like one fan wrote, this fan wrote, that's the backlash.
Right,
Those
it's
2
nobody.
fans.
Right, which means
But
nobody.
people read it and they're like, Jesus Christ, did you hear what the fuck's
Yeah,
going on?
It's not that big.
But that's,
that's
I think
that's what he's saying.
do live in a different
and
fucking
I think that's
world.
what he's saying. He's like, if you watch the news and you watch all this stuff, yes, you're going to think the world is a horrible place and that it's out of control. Just go outside, go for a walk, get some sunshine on your face, go meet people, go talk to people. It's like we live in Baltimore, man. There's white people, there's black people, there's all different types of people, and for the most part, we all get along.
Yeah.
Like it's like we're all just trying to.
Well, let me tell you
happening,
something.
it's
That's
happening.
one of those things that like I am not ignorant to Baltimore. I've been around violence. I understand the drug game. I know all of it. I go to Baltimore. I've experienced
the Baltimore holdup.
There's just as many white people that are pieces of shit in this city and that are thugs.
And keep in mind,
as there are all the other people.
Keep in mind, drugs know no culture or anybody.
Yeah.
And Westminster, the streets of Westminster can be just as loony as the streets of Baltimore if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And anyway, it is our love letter to the city, and I'm really happy that you came on, man. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure.
What about Kanye West? You guys into Kanye at all? Because
musically,
Ari Shaffir, like he talked about Kanye
I watched
for
the
like
special.
20 minutes.
Is he a Kanye fan?
Yeah, huge fan.
Music,
right. But does he musically?
Yeah.
Well, and that was the bet. He's like, look, he's like, I don't watch the news. I don't read the news. He goes, but you'll eventually, hear some things. He goes, yeah. My buddy comes up to me. He goes, did you hear that? Kanye hates the Jews. He's like, no. He's like, I didn't. Where'd you hear that? He's like, Twitter. And he's like, yeah, get off.
Right.
Like, well,
he's like, I follow Kanye on Spotify.
I can't say that.
And
I don't hate Kanye's music. I don't really listen to it, but I wouldn't constitute him as a musical genius. I don't think he's done really.
Have you deep dived?
No.
Have you deep dived?
He's done things, but what has he done that people haven't done?
It's his style, the way, the production, the style, and the way he. Now, keep in mind, I don't know all Kanye, but my sons are huge. Like Caleb's a huge Kanye.
I'm a huge
guy.
Kanye.
So I should go down the Kanye rabbit hole.
Well, it's like
for the early stuff or something.
I don't know how I remember how I got into it. My buddy, who is one of my best friends, John Lowry, works at the radio station. He's like, he goes, you don't listen to Kanye? And I'm like, no. He's like, dude, he's brilliant. You got to listen to him. And I was like, this is coming from a guy that I highly respect and regard, and I like his musical taste. We're really good friends. I'm like, all right, well, if he's saying this to me, let me go explore it. And I started exploring, and I don't know what happened, but it just clicked with me. But he was a producer. Like he was much like me. He made beats. Like he was just a beat maker. He made beats for Jay-Z. He was making beats for all these artists. And then he's like, well, I'm just going to start rapping. And they all laughed at him. They're like, what do you mean you're like going to start rapping? You're not a rapper. You're a producer. You make beats. So then he not only did he make the beats, but he was rapping over his own beats. And then he was coming out with albums, and it was it's some of the best. Like Jay-Z doesn't make his own beats.
Right.
Like he buys beats from people, and then Kanye did it all.
And he's got an album.
That's what makes him the genius.
And it's
is that
slick.
It's all him.
It's slick shit. It's like he's got an album.
I mean, I've
of
heard it.
slick,
I'm not like
throughout
blind,
each
completely
song.
blind, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
For me, it's just like, and you know, some of the later stuff I can do without. It got a little.
Well, that's what I've always been told is that the earlier Kanye.
I mean, you could
level.
probably go 5-6 albums deep, and they're all just. Even Rick Rubin's on record saying there's never been an artist that came out with like 4. The first 4 albums were just like it's never been done before. It's
Right.
Anyway.
And then those damn shoes. Apparently, they're popular. I don't know how the shoes look.
Yeah, they're
hideous to me, but I mean, I don't know. It's not like I'm the most fashionable cat in the world. I mean,
They are fucking hideous.
Yeah,
Like, dude, like
somebody loves them. I mean, I don't know. Guys are fucking.
lots of people love them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the point with that, what Ari was saying is like, you know, there's a fine line between, you know, genius and crazy.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the people that are the most genius are the most crazy.
It's
And
it's a brilliant point.
Just,
It-
you know, it's just the way it
It's
works.
always the way it is. It's just we've never had access to their inner thoughts until now. And now everybody's like, hey, that guy's fucked up. But you're like,
and
yeah,
then also
most
that
geniuses
you throw in all the money in the world,
Mm-hmm.
all of the access in the world. I mean,
Back to
it's
Saltburn
just- it's
type
enough
stuff.
to just, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
We talk about that all the time. Like people are like, oh, well, you know, he's rich. And, you know, everyone wants to be rich and famous. It's like, guess what? You don't.
Right.
You don't want it.
Right.
Like I get to be like pseudo famous, which is fun. It can be fun sometimes, but I'm not rich and I'm not like famous. And it's like, but you see how it can. I mean, it'll go to your, you know.
I do think
Justin
though,
Bieber, right? Like he's 19 years old, and you give a 19-year-old like $40 million. Of course, he's going,
fucked.
and then you're having all your missteps in front of the world.
Right.
Like it's like you're destined
No,
to fail.
I do
destined
think
to
though
fail.
that nowadays,
It's crazy.
if I came into money right now,
Yeah, you'd probably be
I
fine.
think I would be okay
I
with it
would
because
like to
I've
think
learned
I
a lot of
would,
lessons. I don't have any sweet tooths anymore other than nicotine and caffeine.
Yeah.
And you know,
But if I came into money when we were 20,
oh my God, we'd be dead.
we'd be dead. We would be dead.
Yeah, because we were crazy without that, you know.
Yeah, we'd be. Yeah, we wouldn't be.
Well,
not
Scott,
maybe not all of us would be here.
No,
Some
but you
of
would.
us.
You'd
I'd
be dead.
here.
No, you'd be dead.
No, I'd be here. Pole'd be dead.
Pole would be dead. Yeah, I could go either way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know about you.
Yeah, either way. I had a rough
I would
run
be
for
here.
many years, so it could have gone either way. But you always were okay.
Yeah.
That was the fucking weird
That's
thing.
what pissed everybody
The
off.
guy's got a constitution of a fucking ox. I take a head full of acid. The trees are turning into Edward Scissorhands, and I'm in the back seat going, oh my God. And then I look up front, and long hair, beard.
I'm driving.
And he's driving. We took it at the same time. And I'm
You're
going,
like, how are you driving?
I'm sitting there thinking to myself,
we did
Jesus
spend an
Christ.
entire trip driving.
Like,
I
how
was
the
driving.
hell is he doing
I was
this,
wearing.
you
I was
know?
wearing caps. Going back to full circle, the Joe Camel glasses I had on. That
If we
day.
took off the glasses, he
if,
wouldn't
if
have been
I took
okay.
off the glasses,
Yeah.
I couldn't drive anymore. I had to put them back on because
Yeah.
if you
your
want me to
safety.
tell you, if I could describe what I was seeing while driving, it was like when the train bust through Toontown in Roger Rabbit. That's what was happening. Yeah, dude.
No,
And I
but
was
like
like, they took off the glass. I'd just be
we
like,
could
dude,
talk
you got
forever.
Oh, I know.
But it's like it's not like you're drunk. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Like if you were drunk,
Yes.
you probably wouldn't
No,
have
no,
been
no,
able
no.
to drive.
Absolutely
but you were
not.
just
And keep in mind,
it's
kids,
different.
I
right?
was
We
one with the car.
we don't condone these acts.
No,
This is
no,
in the
no.
early
If you
90s.
haven't done it before, don't try it.
Don't do
No,
it.
it's a bad idea.
Set and setting is everything
Yes,
you need.
yes.
This is when we were ignorant in the early 90s before we were grown responsible drug abusers. Okay, well, Scott, again, it's a
Yeah,
pleasure, man.
absolute
and
pleasure having
if you
you.
can ever mention us again on 98 Rock, that was fun, and wonderful.
How many? What's your most view? Like how many of these have you done?
What
What
we are
episode is
on
this?
episode 29. Your episode will be.
So you've done 29 of these.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how
I
long has
release
it been
them
going
every
for?
10 days. May 10th was our first episode.
Last year, Matt, last
Okay,
May.
so this is relatively new.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've
What's
got
what's the most views you've gotten?
1,200 views, but then that's only on YouTube. Spotify has numbers, Apple
kinda
has numbers.
Checking through things. The episode 27 was Hat and Hair, so 29
That's
is
the newest one.
29 is Anthony Hurley. Do you know him? I know he's a friend of Justin.
Justin knew him, I think.
He's a singer. He's a singer-songwriter. Our next episode will be him. So
the reason why he was compared with you is because Justin said he's hung like a horse. Anthony Hurley. Yeah, and so on the Justin episode, he was like, we mentioned Anthony Hurley. He's like, that man is whatever.
How does he know that he has a big penis?
So he was at some event with
he was at
Street by Tommy.
Well, he was. Justin said he was doing a stand-up, and Anthony was in the front row, and he could see a bulge.
See it through the pants.
Street by Tommy and Travis were there.
Not distracted,
and they know Anthony somehow.
And so signed.
But so he mentioned it, and then we started. So we were like, yeah, Scott and Anthony, and that's why he's bringing it.
So 28 will be Anthony Hurley. 29 will be Sweet Lita.
Incredible episode.
So I'll be 30,
you will be 30.
30.
That's a good even number.
Yeah.
We have this coming Tuesday. We have, Johnny Alonso, you know who he is?
Yep.
We have him coming in. Yeah, he's coming in from LA to do the show.
When Joe Stamboni did this, when he did it, did he get high? Was he high?
Don't answer that word, Davis.
He had a few beers.
Beers?
Yeah.
Did you smoke?
No, we didn't. No. I generally don't really smoke.
Yeah, he's a nervous Nelly sometimes.
You don't know me. You've met me once. This is so far out of my wheelhouse in life.
Yeah,
doing this, and now we're going to be 30 episodes in, and now I'm having a blast.
Yeah, this was my thing. Was me
Joe
and Wheel
wanted
to do a drum show,
not openly,
because I've read a lot about the history of drums and psychedelics, and I have a huge thing about that I could get into. That was the original impetus of the show. Wheel, in his producing and infinite wisdom, was like, Lepo, there's 30 people on earth are going to give a shit about that.
Yeah, it was just about the same.
You have to do something. You know so much about music, movies, drums, philosophy. You ought to just get Woe Davis. And I'm like, yeah, why don't I? So I bring him in. All of our friends are like, is that going to work? Woe's very shy. I'm like, no, I lived with Woe. Like, we've been together since 92.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just have to know,
how to get it out.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's a fucking natural. It's fucking great.
Did you see the Phil Collins documentary?
I haven't, because
Drumeo.
I don't subscribe to Drumeo. Do you need
No, it's
to
on
be?
YouTube.
Oh, okay, good. I love Phil Collins. Right. I just have been avoiding it because I thought Drumeo you had to subscribe to.
Drumeo YouTube. I just watched it. I think it's free.
Yeah, I love Phil Collins. Most underrated drummer of all. One of the most underrated drummers of all time, in my opinion.
Tommy might have been on shrooms. I don't know. Maybe he might have been fucked up.
Oh, Simbazo.
Oh, when he was here, Tommy was fucking.
I don't think he was, but him and Eric are coming in the February 1st, and they're gonna do
they're performing.
They're gonna perform. I was like, we're not gonna have an audience. They're like, well, yeah, we'll do it. They're gonna perform in there.
Have they ever recorded their songs?
I don't think
studio?
so. No.
Not in a studio. There is some Magoobies.
They have a live.
Yeah, you can watch. Yeah, there's the Magoobies.
But I mean, in a studio setting, mic them up properly.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It'll be a great
good
product.
levels.
Yeah,
that'll be good for them.
Daphne London is another comedian that does stuff with them, and
she's really cute.
Yeah, I want to get. I've talked to her. She's going to come in, and she's a musical comedian too.
I don't know much about her, but I stalk her on Instagram.
Yeah. Nice. Well, we'll get you in here when she's in.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fun, man. We have drummers, we have bands, we have comedians. I have some cosplayers I'm gonna get in here. We've had artists in here.
He does
Thomas
all this
Pierce
kind of shit.
Yeah, these Scott. I make these in xenomorphs. I gave Justin one of my Xenos.
What do you mean you make those?
Well, that's a long story.
Mold, and I'm a sculptor. These I didn't physically sculpt, but I paint
probably
them.
Get along really
well. We're going to be collaborating. Yep. So one of my guys that I do stuff with lives in England.
Unbelievable.
He's
an
engineer.
He brought a satchel of
that he made.
Shit.
Yeah, I had him bring stuff in that he made, but. So me and one of my partners is from England, and we're gonna do some. These are resin, so
they're hard.
They're display, but we make the wearable mask.
He painted all those. He made the dreadlocks. He made the
Tommy's
eyes.
gonna assist me in making the mechanism to make the mouth open, with hand movements, so it.
God.
So it opens. And the xenomorphs, I make full scale xenomorphs. They're 39 inches long.
That's the alien from the movie.
Yeah. So Tommy's going to help me with that too, because I need to. I'm not mechanically inclined
and that's just
like
a
that.
Hobby.
It is a hobby. I mean, I sell them, but it's not enough to. I'm trying to quit my day job.
But
there's a lot going
work
on.
for some fucking overseas company selling paints.
Yeah, I have a cosplay supply business too. I sell flexible paints and stuff. Like I have a lot. Like I do 4 things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any kind of that ability, but I love art, like, and I respect it, and I think that people that can create it, I try to buy as much like local art as I can.
That's a cool thing. Like our last episode is a dude named Matt Muirhead. He's a local artist.
You know Luke Martin? You got to try and track down Luke Martin.
Yeah, I'll look for
We're
him.
looking, I mean,
he does concert posters. He's done.
Oh, wait a minute. Is that Chris's friend? Chris, is that your friend?
Yeah, maybe
he was
Suburban Avenger. I think is his artist name, Suburban Avenger, Luke Martin. Like his concert posters are
interesting.
I mean, he's done fish posters.
Yeah, somebody
he's
recently
done, like,
it
string
might have
cheese
been
posters.
You know him, or you just know of him?
He's a local guy. I have some of his art in my house. Cool. I don't really know him, but he just came out with a book. He's incredible.
There's other like tattoo. I want to get some tattoo artists in here. Like I celebrate all art. I'm not a musician. I'm an artist. I'm not a musician.
I'm nothing, but
you're a personality. Yeah, you're an artistic personality. Yeah, I mean, give me a break.
All of it is art.
Yeah,
everything.
Definitely.
Talking's art.
I guess.
How about that? It's your fucking ex-brother-in-law's painting. I mean, what a small world.
I saw the date and then I saw the signature. I'm like, I know that's Tommy's. I have.
That's incredible.
I got a bunch of Tommy's stuff in my house.
Oh, dude, that was.
And we
had
our
an
logo.
Immediate purchase.
Our logo was made that's the Baltimore skyline in the background of the logo, but that was made by a local.
Yeah,
cat.
A friend of mine,
right?
Jericho Vinegar Works. Greg Jericho made that. He does all our logos, everything. Everything we do is local. I mean, the T-shirts are Old Eastern Ink Shop in Timonium, and they have the band Old Eastern.
Yeah, I mean, I go over to listen, and I don't want to, but I have friends in the neighborhood, and I go over their houses, and I have, thankfully, I have my own house, right? I still own that, and so now I can do whatever I want with it, and I like to fill it with things that are unique and that are. Yes. But I go over to people's houses and you see that they have art like hanging on the wall that they bought at like Home Goods.
No,
I
hate it.
And you're like, what?
Live, laugh, love.
Well, yeah, that. But I mean, it's also like it could be a picture of like a beach or something. But it's like
Home
they
Goods
bought
stuff,
it from Home Goods or like Target. It's like, what do you do? Like? Go to a fucking art fair,
right?
And find something that's cool and give a local artist $300 or $400.
Yes,
right.
And buy their stuff and put it in your house. Like I try.
It's the meaning of art.
I'll go to Etsy, and Etsy is like they're small local artists, but they're just not.
Done that stuff.
It's like a global marketplace where you can find an artist that is Like I bought a mirror from this couple in Texas that bought. They got all these old wood from old barns and they repurposed it. It was freaking incredible.
Yeah, that's cool.
I just like that kind of stuff. Suburban Avenger is his name.
I wrote it down.
Luke Martin.
Matt Muirhead's cool. He was in here a couple like a month
episodes
back in
ago,
December, but he's one of those guys. He'll go buy thrift store art and paint scenes into it.
Yeah, wait, is he not? Is he? There's a guy following Instagram that does
There's
that.
people that do it. Are you talking about the guy that like busts up the frame? Like he'll do Star Wars AT-ATs and he'll burn the framing around it.
Yeah,
to
I
make
don't know
it
about
look like
burning the framing, but like he'll buy like an old.
Matt does it. He's a local guy.
Yeah, I love that.
He puts a lot of cats and
in his
dominoes,
episode,
sugar, like skulls. But he'll keep the art sometimes and add to it, or he'll just put random stuff. But he's good. But he also brought in a homemade kalimba.
Damn, that's the dude did that. That's fucking great.
That's Luke Martin. Like he's been like,
and he's
on
local?
board with like Dead & Co.
And he's
doing their
local?
concert posters.
That's cool.
He does fish. He does goose. He does like I don't know how he got into the world with all these bands, but he does like some of the biggest bands in the world.
Cool.
He does their concert posters.
There's somebody in the area. One of these cats on Instagram that takes incredible pictures, AZN pics or something like that. That like every fish show you see will have these pictures that are outstanding.
You want local,
and
Baltimore,
they're local too.
And you want I don't know what she is, but like she's trying to take it to the next level. Her name is Madison Short. I don't know if you've heard of her, but like she literally just walks around Baltimore with her camera and takes photos.
Okay,
and they're awesome. And she's an artist. She works at like a brewery. She's really cute. She's awesome. She's a super cool person.
Cool.
And I was in Checker Spot the other day. That's where she works.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'll put that out there.
Enslow's playing
And like
there.
she looked at me and I looked at her and I was like, And I'm like, I know you. And she's like, yeah, I know you. She's like, we follow each other on like Instagram. I'm like, you're mad. You take all the photos. She's like, yeah. And she's like, she's trying to figure out like what to do with it. She's all about Baltimore, highlighting Baltimore, showing it in a good light. But she doesn't know like the next step. And I don't know what the next step is for her. But like the photos are incredible. The neighborhood she goes, like it's just, you look at these photos, you're like, this is like it paints Baltimore in such an awesome freaking light.
I love that. Like,
one thing we do with art, like Matt brought art in and we had it set up there, so we had this camera on the art and we just sat around and talked about it. So we could do
he would
something
talk
like
about
that with her.
She would be a great guest.
I'll reach out to her 100%. That's what we're looking for. People like we take recommendations. Like,
because the world's changing so quickly in front of us. Everybody's moving from LA. There's no reason on earth why Baltimore can't become a better place for the arts.
Well, it's just like Detroit. Like Detroit went into the shitter.
Right.
And then all these artists and all these people realized, hey, it's super cheap to live in Detroit.
Right. Yeah.
They all moved out. Like it's having a renaissance now because there was all these big warehouses and all this real estate and cheap real estate. And as an artist, you sometimes need a big space, right?
Yeah.
So you can find this big loft
That's interesting.
for super cheap.
Yeah.
And like they're almost having an artistic like resurgence because artists don't make a lot of money,
right?
So they need cheap spaces, they need big spaces.
Sure.
They want to live like in an urban environment where they can walk places, be around like-minded people, like Hamden, like Highland Town, like Station North, all these great neighborhoods in Baltimore. And like, I think Baltimore, I mean, we're on the verge.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree.
I mean, and I'm not that plugged in. So me saying that we're on the verge probably offends a lot of people because we're probably past the verge on some, in some aspects.
Yeah, but yes and no. Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm in the. I get around with the music scene, and we go downtown a lot. But yeah.
We could. It's too many challenges,
and that's one. I mean, that's why we did this. I like.
There's
so much local music that even my friends don't even never heard of that I've seen dozens of times.
Are you a Pigeons guy?
Yeah,
Pigeons playing Pigeons. Yeah.
We saw they did the last First Thursday.
Canton
Waterfront.
I've seen them. I've only seen them like once.
You know who really I am now like out of the new flock. I mean, Goose is fine. I like Goose a lot. But the band that I just have such hopes and dreams for is a band called Kendall Street Company.
Okay.
And these guys are from Chesapeake, Virginia.
Okay.
And I saw them at the 930 Club a couple years ago open up for Twiddle.
Twiddle!
Remember
Shout
Twiddle?
out, Greg, if you ever watch this. My buddy Greg is like all into Twiddle.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they broke up.
Yeah, they broke up.
Well,
we met the bass player. What the hell was the bass player's name?
I don't know his name.
Bunk. It's like one word. Me and Amanda talked to him after the Pigeons playing. He's the bass player for Pigeons now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
but
because
let me
Twiddle
just tell
broke
you
up.
This band,
Kendall
Street Company. It's a group of guys that grew up on the same street called Kendall Street. When I saw them, they were probably 17 years old.
Right.
They've been playing. They have albums out since their youth. They are fucking incredible. They've got a sax guy, keyboards, bass, 2 guitars, and their harmonies are incredible. I'm just telling you, they are like Zappa.
Oh, dude, I've been going down a Zappa rabbit hole.
I'm lately. Zappa. It's Steely Dan, Zappa, and Fish are my top 3 bands of all times.
Deep hole.
Yeah,
I know. I'm trying. It's like there's a lot there, but like he's so brilliant. Like the satire, the humor, the seriousness, the musicianship. It's all like he would not take himself seriously, but then he was a brilliant,
incredible.
individual.
I read the real Frank Zappa book, and then there was a book.
Maybe I'll read that.
Then there was a book. He
was
born in Baltimore.
But just so good.
We saw Zappa when they put the bust. There's a Frank Zappa bust
out front of the library.
Yes.
Yeah.
That day they unveiled the bust. Dweezil, Zappa plays Zappa, came to and he came. They played that street, and me and my son and my wife went down.
That's the bass player's name from Twiddle.
I had one other thing. What were we talking about?
Kendall Street, Zappa, Steely Dan, Fish.
I don't remember. But Sturgill Simpson.
I love him, but I haven't deep dived. But I know he's in the scene. I know he's gaining a lot of respect. I've heard.
I just saw him at Anthem, and it's just like.
Many people have been in the jam band world have been talking like Sturgill Simpson is like on a different level.
Yeah.
I don't know what is different, or I mean, is he just like
a lot of people think he's like
embracing-
country. He is. I don't know what
country,
he is.
but
dude, he's a good like
jam country. I guess.
I don't mind
so
country
Like
at all,
Tyler
you know?
Childers, he's a country dude.
Yeah, I like him too, but he gets a little too what's the word I'm looking for? Like he's from Appalachia, and he gets like a little bit too traditional for me sometimes.
Like you aren't like. Have you seen him live?
Yeah,
They're very
phenomenal.
jammy. Like they get into jam.
Well, Sturgill,
Right.
dude. I just saw him in Anthem. Like, dude, some of the solos. Oh god, it was so good. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really good.
that guy's on a different level than most of the other country.
And check out. I
artists.
mean, it's. I don't know if you're into hard stuff. Like I listen to it when I'm at the gym. Like I got away from hard stuff for a long time, and then all of a sudden I'm like, well, why? Like, let me see what else is. Idols, like look up,
I'm with
look
you
up
there.
Idols,
Like, I have gotten
and
away
like
with
I'm
it.
getting like back. It's called like post punk. I don't really know what the genre is that much, but like also Turnstile kind of got me back into the hard
Yeah,
stuff.
we want to get them in
Then
here.
I'm like
Our
listening
buddy
to like
Josh is
Angel
into-
Dust
yeah.
and like Trapped Under Ice, and then you get like from there you go to like Idols. Idols is freaking incredible.
Trapped Under
Viagra
Ice.
Boys are incredible.
Yeah.
Iguana Death Cult. Oh my god.
and now
like-
are all these bands? They're not regional, right?
no. These are all like
Because
they're
Trapped
big-
Under Ice
Yeah,
is-
Except Turnstile, they're
and
Baltimore,
Turnstile,
but
right.
But like Iguana Death Cult, like I have a playlist right now that's Idols, Iguana Death Cult, and Viagra Boys. Turnstile is on it. I put some Angel Dust on there, some Drained, like, and it's just I'll put it on at the gym, and it's just like it's such good stuff.
Dude,
Share
people
that
think I'm a
shit.
maniac. Like I can listen to an audiobook at the gym.
Yeah, no, I listen to whatever.
Yeah, like my wife's like, "How? Like you need your gym playlist?" I'm like, "I don't. I just
It
listen."
just depends. Yeah. I if I'm in the mood, I need music. But lately, like I said, the last 10 years, I've just been consuming books because I was a fucking asshole when I was young and didn't learn
That's.
anything.
I feel like I'm making amends a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to like. I was such an idiot that I never read,
Yeah.
and then people are like, "Dude, read this book." I'm like, "This is fucking incredible!"
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, I
So
was
many
like,
years
nerds,
wasted.
Nerds
Yup.
read,
Right.
read. Huh?
Wasted years.
Yeah.
Well,
I could have
nerds
been
do
learning.
read.
I know.
Well, they do, but-
I'm becoming
but
more
for
of a
a
nerd.
reason.
I'm
Yeah,
becoming
we just didn't realize that nerds were kind of cool
Yeah,
back
they're
in the
cool.
day.
Nerds are
we
cool
just didn't
now.
realize
Yeah,
it. I mean,
yeah.
we were
They've always
assholes.
been cool,
Sure.
They have.
The 80s, baby. All right, well,
they're the
Scott,
reason we have technology.
this has been a pleasure. Please tell your friends about us,
Yeah.
and I hope to see you again, man.
Well,
This was
let
great.
me know when this airs.
Yeah, I will.
Yes.
Or whatever when it gets
100%.
posted.
Yep.
Yes.
And
It'll-
I will
Yeah.
shout it out.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you. All right,
Yeah.
stay sane, Baltimore.
Yep, awesome.
Thanks for listening, Baltimore. You can find us at www.sanitylounge.com or on Instagram at sanity.lounge.
Keep listening and subscribe.
Stay sane, Baltimore.